I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting of Tuesday, September the 6th to order. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Ross, Councillor Tripp.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment or a request for the agenda? I had asked if there would be a couple of items added to the agenda, and I believe that that was in a timely manner. What I was interested in seeing was an accounting for the CanFest costs for staff, time, and just basically the costs of CanFest for the city. And then the other thing was I was hoping that we could do a general debrief on the events that happened over the summer, just so that we could look at them and talk about them generally, the pros and cons, the good, the bad. I know Councillor Hammond had some very good ideas about the fall fair. I don't see those items on the agenda, so I'm just wondering, it's probably not going to be appropriate to ask for CanFest accounting, but I'm wondering if we could at least add a sort of general debrief about the summer's events that took place in town.
Possibly could handle that at a briefing. I don't think the agenda is pretty lengthy this morning as it is. We have an in-camera to follow, so I think at a briefing we can probably discuss the summer CCO as another idea.
So, Mr. Mayor, just in relation to the amount of information that will be required to put together, it will be extensive. It'll have to involve the Finance Department, Public Works Department, the Engineering Department, and the Corporate Services. I think in order for there to be an appropriate report, it's probably going to require another 6 weeks in order for us to pull that information together. We have to have consultation with the Chamber, discussion with the Business Association, and talking with the other volunteer groups to get some feedback from them as well. We haven't even had a chance to debrief with all of you.
Yes, exactly as we had discussed. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our procedures bylaw, I believe it states that councillors are able to add things to the agenda if they submit them 3 working days in advance of the agenda. I'm just wondering if there's a more appropriate way that in future, if we want to add items to the agenda, that we can do it in order to see our items on the agenda, and if we can get a response back from staff or from yourself, just letting us know whether or not our items have been accepted.
That sounds fine. We will do that in the future. We will be able to look at it better. But at this point in time, like our CEO had stated, I had discussed it with him, and it would be too lengthy a process to get all the information in time. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's a reasonable request. It might be a little bit of a short timeline since summer basically ended yesterday, to maybe give it a month or so we can maybe hear back, get a brief report from the various organizations that conducted these events, and to see what how they felt about it, how the city can do better as we move forward. I think it's a great idea to have a debrief, and maybe even to have it in a public meeting, because these were public events. So I'm not opposed to the agenda item, maybe just not today.
Exactly. Well, that's what I meant. It hasn't been rejected. It's just the fact that it was too premature for this meeting to get it in time.
Okay, that's fine.
But it will be addressed and will be noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I believe we're starting our process of our financial statements in September. We're working on our financial plan for in the fall. That will all come forward in that moment.
I believe that's the case. We discussed it with financial plans here coming up, so that all can be brought up then too. We can have a briefing though first. So all in favor of adopting the agenda as presented? So carried. Just a quick reminder, there's an in-camera meeting directly following the committee of the whole meeting. Moving on now for our register petitions and delegations. First on is Mr. Paul Pinard from the Good Sam RV Club. Subject matter is presenting an update regarding the BC Good Sam RV Club visit to Grand Forks. Mr. Pinard, good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, good morning. In the name of the BC Good Sam Club, I want to thank the City of Grand Forks for letting us use the Dick Bartlett Park for our 2016 rally, and for supplying Grand Forks coffee mug for the participant. Also want to thank the city staff for their cooperation and their help, especially Sarah Winton and Stephen Howard. It was a pleasure to work with them. Thank you. Our rally was a success. We had 118 rigs and 243 people in attendance, which included visitors from Ontario, Idaho, Alberta, Washington, and as far north as Prince George. Everybody enjoyed their visit in Grand Forks, and I received many comments are nice and helpful the local merchants were. Somebody even suggested that we make Grand Forks our permanent location. It's too much work, it won't happen. It's often said that when the RVR comes to town, we're self-contained and we do not spend money. During our rally, we had a draw box for the people to put their store receipt for a chance to win prizes every night. We get very few debit card receipt and fewer credit card receipt. But this year we got the following. People spend $1,600 in grocery, $2,000 in restaurant, and others such as liquor, hardware store, pharmacy, some other place, a little bit over $2,000. If you had a catered meal and a facility rental, over $16,000 were spent in town that we know of. The whole thing, to be noted, during the rally, there was a construction on a house on Bryson's Place, and the concrete truck were using the alley beside the park. It was created a lot of dust, and people were complaining. I made 2 phone calls, and in less than an hour, half an hour, the city truck was there to keep the dust down. Everyone was very impressed with the city service. Also, the sign that was erected by the entrance of the park, probably the most photographed thing in town that weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. May I have a motion to receive Mr. Bernard's? Councillor Ross and Councillor Tree. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. Thank you again, Mr. Bernard.
Thank you.
Second item is the Grand Forks Downtown Business Association. Subject matter requesting share funding for a highway banner promoting the downtown business area, providing signage for directing RVs to approved parking areas, and a parking bylaw for downtown. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members. For those,
Where's the button there? The big button.
for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lynn Ralph. I'm chair of the Downtown Business Association. And, okay. So we've had discussions at our meetings about creating a banner to put on Highway 3. A lot of people drive through town and don't realize that there's more to the downtown area, and we'd like to be able to direct travelers, especially during tourist season, to the retail and services that are available in the downtown core. So we have looked into costs for the banner. It would be between $1,500 and $2,000. We do have funding available from the Chamber of Commerce that we can access for advertising and other costs of the Downtown Business Association. However, we would like to perhaps partner with the city to cover the costs of the banner. And as I understand it, the city crews are responsible for putting up and taking down the banners. So we'd like to have the banner up between other event banners that go across the highway before their events. The second item, we've been talking a lot about directional signage. again, people driving through town don't know what's available in the downtown core. And I've been looking or researching different types of signage that we could put up along Highway 3. The main thing, I believe, there is a lot of, when you drive down Highway 3, there are just myriad of signs. And so I think it would be necessary for any type of directional signage like that to be very visible, in that we use bright colors to attract people's attention so that they don't just blend into all the other signage that's out there. We could, sort of educate people about what's available, like attractions that are available in the downtown core, not only business and services, but things like the city park, the spray park, the BMX park, things like that. And so the more people we bring to the downtown area, of course, the more likely they're going to be spending money with our retailers and supporting our local services as well, which is good for everybody, including the city. And the other big issue, and it's related to the directional signage as well, is directing RVers to appropriate parking areas close to the downtown area. I know I don't own an RV, but I know a lot of people that are a little nervous if they're in a strange town about turning off onto side streets because they may end up in a dead end where they can't get their rig turned around. And this is something as far as RV parking that I'd like to work on in conjunction with the city, the Downtown Business Association, and also private landowners in the downtown, because there is a lot of space available that when I walk around the downtown area isn't being used. And so I think if we had some kind of collaboration whereby we could use those areas to increase the amount of parking for out-of-towners. And also, and this is in relation to item number 3, I've been hearing a lot of complaints from retailers downtown that there is, part of the reason there's a lack of parking space for their customers is that some business owners insist on using street parking and their employees as well, rather than finding areas behind their buildings or maybe a block away that they could walk to their businesses. This not only creates problems for customers that want to visit services and retail businesses in the downtown. The other thing is, I know when I receive deliveries, I don't have a back door, so they have to come to the front of my shop, and if they can't find parking on the street, that's an issue. Because I have large boxes coming to my business, and it's difficult for them to get boxes from their vehicle to my front door. So I think parking, as I understand it, has been a problem that's been discussed in the past. And with the Downtown Business Association and City Council working together, as well as private landowners, we can maybe come up with some solutions. Another thing that's been suggested is having the parallel parking along the south side of Market Avenue turned into angle parking. That would create more parking spots along Market Avenue, and possibly having some kind of parking bylaw put in place. Like, for example, a 2-hour parking limit. Now that we have a bylaw officer, that could be enforced. So that's pretty much all I had to talk about today. I'd like council to consider some of these options, and we would of course be willing to meet with the appropriate people from the city to discuss further, and also maybe involve some of the landowners in the downtown area and look at costs and the options that are available to us to help alleviate some of these problems.
Thank you for your presentation. Do you have any questions? Councilor Tripp.
Thank you for your report. I really enjoyed reading it, and I absolutely agree that the people on the highway don't really know the jewel that's here and behind and all the different things that are available for them to see. As far as RVs, we have a small one, and you're exactly right. Even with a small trailer, you really, sometimes don't think you want to go down that road because you don't know where it leads and you can't really see. I would very much be in favor of council looking at some sort of designated route for RVs. And I think we could, in collaboration with the city staff and the knowledge that they have, hopefully be able to figure out some kind of a route where the RVs could come in, find some parking, and then be able to walk, even if it's just a block, over to Market, and then be able to get out again, like maybe on 2nd or something, back out. But I just see that as very doable and a real asset for the community. So I'm really glad you brought that forward.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hammond.
Yes, thanks, Len, for that presentation. I believe Acting Corporate Officer Sarah Winton will be attending next week's meeting, so will I. And yeah, I'm looking forward to looking through the plans for the Wayfarer signage. So it's coming. It's coming.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the other councillors. It's definitely something that we need to see along the highway so that people coming through can find the different assets in our community. And it is on our agenda later on here to be dealing with different types of wayfinding signage. And I'd really be interested in seeing the ideas of signage that you had. A banner across the highway would be okay, but I think we can do maybe a bit better than that. Having permanent signage up on the road is something that's needed in strategic locations. But I would like to see us maybe work on the design a bit more and come up with something, like you said, more colorful.
Yeah.
Maybe get away from just the black and white.
Yeah, for our meeting next week, will be printing out some examples that might be appropriate, and then perhaps Sarah and Councillor Hammett could bring those forward to City Council for their perusal.
To our CEO.
Mr. Mayor, just to make council aware, in 2009, July 20, 2009, council approved a banner policy, and council may provide an opportunity and a venue for the advertisement of special community events in and around the city, provide a venue to capture the tourists off Highway 3 to increase local awareness of the community functions. So council does have a banner policy around community functions. That's why you see the current banners that we have up there. I don't know the impetus behind why council said not to advertise specific stores and things like that in the downtown core, but I think that there would be challenges with the rest of the businesses down south. So it would be something that would be great for us to consult with the chamber on and make sure that the entire story behind the banner is revealed to council, because in 2009, when it was brought forward as a policy, there would be more information.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to our CEO, does the city not already have a parking bylaw that limits parking to 2 hours? I know that at one time we did have.
I would have to check into that to confirm that. I mean, this is an interesting comment and statement, because back in 1951, we received $4,000 in revenue from parking meters downtown. So it's interesting how we're coming full circle again. So to check into that bylaw, I could check into that. There is going to be some pros and cons to a bylaw. I mean, the residents, to somebody that gets caught in the doctor's office, that's a little bit longer, they get penalized, and there's going to be some pros and cons. So I would say to you that, council, when we have the strategic planning session, we want to talk about these things. These are some of the outcomes that council might want to interject. So I'll bring that forward and send it out to council, see if we have one.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Allen. The reason I bring that up is when I was working for the city, we had a contract with the commissioners to provide bylaw enforcement services, and one of the bylaws they enforced was parking. So I don't know if that bylaw was rescinded or if it still exists, so I would really appreciate that being looked into.
The gentleman in the back.
Just for clarification, were you suggesting one of the possibilities was angled parking on both sides of Market Street?
Could you identify?
Les Johnson.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, did you say angled parking was on both sides of Market was one alternative idea?
Yeah, that's one of the ideas that was brought forward to me from somebody in the business community.
Okay, I'm just curious if there's regulations or standards on, like, is that road wide enough? Is that, like,
Yeah, that was one of the things we weren't sure of.
and is that within the city's purview to put that sort of thing in? I'm just curious.
We would have to set, we would do it by, for engineering standards. And if I could just address the other council's question, yes, we do have a parking bylaw from 1976, it's bylaw 977 from 1976, and we do have a parking regulation bylaw.
Still in effect.
From what I can see right now, there has been no repeal. Perfect.
Do we have any other questions? Councillor Butler.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO, I'm just wondering if that could be made available to council, please.
Absolutely. So unless there are any other questions, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. Great subject matter. Something we'll definitely look into.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members.
May I have a motion to receive? Councillor Butler, Councillor Hammett, all in favor? So carried. Thank you once again. Our next delegation is from the Grand Forks Flying Club. Subject matter is to request to consider delegating the establishment of a Grand Forks Airport Commission or Society as per recommendation in the November 2000 Airport Master Plan. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning. I guess we should, short introduction. My name is David Brown, and I'm going to stand because I have to do some reading on the PowerPoint. And Ben Peach, we're both with the Flying Club here. And just a bit of my background, I operate a company here in town called Ground Effect Aerial Consulting. And we also have an office in Red Deer, Alberta. And we provide assistance to airports and heliport operators in the management of their airports and their heliports. We do training. We help them with their operations manuals, and we work with the airspace associated with the airports and heliports. And of course, we were involved in the construction of the heliport here in town a few years ago. Ben, maybe just a short introduction of.
Sure. My name is Ben Peach. I'm a local resident of Grand Forks. I've owned and I'm maintaining my own airplane here for quite a number of years. I'm active in the local flying club. I'm the vice president also of the BC General Aviation Association. I'm a director in that organization and a member in good standing of Canadian Owners and Pilots Association.
What we'd like to do today is I guess present to Mayor and Council the thought of an alternate form of governance for the airport. And we have a PowerPoint that we're going to kind of run through here and run through a few thoughts for you. And we'll just maybe go from there if you could go through. So just to start off, small size airports are not big business. And one of the challenges out there for small communities is that the thought out there is that the airport should be self-supporting, self-sustaining. And there are very few airports in this country that fulfill that mandate, if you want to call it that. And the challenge there is when we get airports the size of ours, there's a real challenge in being able to try to create a balanced budget. So, and the other comment there is that they should be taxed as a commercial venture, and the airport should bring goods and services, visitors and commerce to the community without any cost to the community. At most small airports, the cost to operate and maintain is not proportionate to the usage. A community airport is part of the inventory of transportation infrastructure, such as roads, sidewalks, highways, and no one really expects that that sidewalks be self-supporting. A successful community airport provides for medevac flights, is utilized for firefighting, attracts new business or supports existing community business, such as we have in town, Cal Tire and Stryker Industries, Roxall, Pacific Abrasives, Infor. And then it also invites tourists and visitors arriving by private aircraft. Serves as a port in the storm during bad weather, so when pilots going through, they got a spot where they can land. Most of these we're doing really well at, and I would say it's probably the third one that as a flying club we see that we need to find ways to attract new business to the airport. Next slide, please. Provide agriculture for aviation. Not very much goes on in our valley in that way, but we do have an agricultural community. Accommodates flight training. We do have a little bit out there going on. Encourage the UAV technology, and we have. That's very unique for our airport. We have that now. Provide synergy with the industrial park development. That's something we need to work on. Provide for natural disaster evacuation. I'm sure there's plans in place now that allow us utilization of the airport for that. Provide for general aviation of private flyers, and there's a group, a flying club, and hence the reason we're kind of here today. And is a base for search and rescue, gives cadets exposure to glider flight training and general education regarding aviation environment, and provides indirect economic benefit to the community as a result of all of those things.
Could you just tell me what UAV means?
Oh, unmanned aircraft.
Okay.
Unmanned aircraft.
Otherwise known as drones.
As drones. And yeah, we try not to use that word, but that's okay. Okay, I think we're good there. So one of the key things that we found, and I found, I'm fairly new to town, about 3 years now, is that we had an airport master plan for the airport done in 2000, and it hasn't been updated since. Few, if any, of the recommendations in that master plan have been acted on by previous councils or, of course, the present one. So we look at that and say, well, okay, so why no action? Why didn't any action? So the next slide just provides a few things out there. We maybe had limited city staff resources, limited staff knowledge in the subject matter of airport management, the cost to implement those recommendations. Council and city staff maybe just simply weren't aware that the master plan had been left that long. Other city issues with higher priority. So there's some things or reasons why the master plan kind of didn't get acted on. One of the things that an airport authority will do, and this is what Ben and I are proposing, is that mayor and council consider a different form of governance for the airport that will alleviate resources currently assigned to the airport administration, solve for the lack of airport administration knowledge, as the airport authority will be comprised of those with aviation and business backgrounds, mitigate some of the costs associated with airport administration by utilizing volunteer labor of the new airport governance. Be comprised of members who have an interest and a desire to promote and grow the airport. Airport management administration will be the airport authority's only focus. And as a first task, one of the things that we feel that a new airport authority should do is to update the master plan. So some of the issues we have at the airport, in my mind, in the 3 years that I've been here, seems to be stagnant. Ben's been here longer than I have. In regard to new tenants, and that would help to be able to share the cost of the infrastructure that's there. We have a beautiful piece of infrastructure out there in terms of a 4,300-foot runway, some good taxiways. The town has done a fantastic job in terms of maintaining that infrastructure, but it's the management side of that that we see really needs to maybe go in a different direction. So the city's recent approach to managing the airport operational budget, and they're struggling with that, appears to be single-focused. The current managerial model for the airport over time will result in an exodus of tenants over time, and the gap between the airport revenues and our expenses are going to continue to increase. So here's what we're proposing, is that the City of Grand Forks delegate the establishment of a Grand Forks Airport Authority to govern, manage, and market the airport and the associated lands as recommended in the master plan of 2000. One of the first tasks of the airport authority would be to update the master plan. We have some handouts for you when you do your debriefing, and it's a big book with a lot of stuff in it. And Ben and I invite you to go through that material. There's a lot there. Some of it may be technical, but we invite you to go through that and as much as you can become knowledgeable in the subject. Test what we're saying. Test what we're asking. Does it make sense? Contact some of the other communities that are also have gone this way in terms of using an authority to manage the airport, and give consideration to that going forward. So in that little handout, you're going to find there's a biography of Ben and I, who we are, and that type of thing, and where we're from, and what work we've done, and all that. Then there's some examples in there, and we outline some of the other sites that have followed this same example of using an airport authority for management. There's some contact information there as well. Master plan update, and that's important. You can go through and you can see the master plan from 2000 and have a look at the recommendations in there, what it talked about, and look at what it said there. And then we have also outlined some of the proposed responsibilities for the airport authority under the new governments, and also the responsibility of the city. And the city still has to, have a part of this. There has to be a partnership between the authority and the city. And the other thing that's in there is a listing of what the required qualifications and the selection process of the airport authority board would be. Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I think there's one last slide, which is essentially thank you, Mayor and Council, and for a response to the delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Brown and Mr. Peach. Any questions, Councillor Crocker?
Sorry, back to that. Anyways, I can't figure out how to turn that on. So the proposal of the system, the wording doesn't match the old report, which identified 4 different municipal airport commission, regional airport commission, airport society, and municipal council. So which one of those, or is this a completely new dog?
There are airport commissions, and there are airport societies, and there is an airport authority.
Okay, so the one you're proposing.
So what we are proposing is a society, which is the same thing as an authority, because the society and authority can be the same thing. The commission is a little different. Commission is typically where there is an organization or group which is made up of council members, as I understand, as a part of that commission. And that's the difference, that, as I understand, the difference between the authorities.
So I think we've sort of tried to model our idea around what works in other communities. And I think what we've sort of observed is that the commission idea is typically better suited to larger airports of over, serving cities of over 10,000 population, 10 to 50,000, say, sort of like Victoria, I think, Kuala Lumpur Beach, a few of those. Yeah. But the smaller airports that have generated real success stories seem to be, as you'll see from the supporting documentation that we provided, seem to typically be in the form governed by societies.
Okay, Creston is a good example. Yeah, Creston is a good example.
Yeah, excellent question.
Yeah.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's wonderful when we have people in our community with such great talents and skills and background that want to come forward and volunteer and help us out. So I really appreciate that and want to encourage that, not discourage you in any way from what you're doing. I'm just wondering, with the society, how it would report back to the city. I know with the Rec Commission we do have one council rep, I'm the rep for that on there to help report back. But at first, as you're getting started, I want to make sure that there was some city oversight. You know, you seem very knowledgeable in what you're doing, but just to get it up and running and so that we know what's going on. And then over time, I know we've put in a request with the regional districts to help contribute money to the operating expenses of the airport, and hopefully if they come on board with some finances, maybe there would be a regional district representation in there as well. So I'm just wondering how you see that evolving over time and how you're going to be reporting back to the city.
Well, I think first and foremost, as part of the proposal, we would like to have one councillor probably, or certainly a city employee, kind of designated to be the city's liaison to the society or to the governing body. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, of course, we would have the expectation that we would have to report on a regular basis on some predetermined schedule back to the city council. That's an expectation of ours, of course. Yeah. And we absolutely agree with you on all accounts, and thank you for your support.
There would be a financial responsibility as well in terms of budget approvals, and on a yearly budget, as well as on a 5-year plan budget. All that would be part and parcel of.
So your documentation will definitely indicate the terms of reference most likely in there, or have you gone that far yet?
There are some, Mr. Mayor, there is some of that there. There is an agreement in there. There's an example of the agreement that is in place between the city of Creston and their society. So there's an example there that you can go through and you can see the ins and outs on both parties to be able to make it work.
That's kind of like what is it?
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. To our CEO and then to Councillor Ross.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things that if council considers is today, I recommend the council request a report back from staff on options. Because as council moves through their asset management plan, council has to, as we look at this, what are the additional costs to the taxpayers that you're going to be looking at? Because right now you subsidize the operating cost of the airport to about $90,000 a year with no replacement value going into it. So you're not putting any money aside to replace anything. The business model that they're talking about is quite admirable and it's great, but what I think we need to understand for council is the big picture. As we talk about this, what are the options? This is one private, this is a group that has an interest in the airport. What are the other options for council? And then beyond that, what are the long-term implications of that? So once you hear the report from staff, great, these two fellows that are presented today, great information. But I think it'd be prudent for council to hear a full report on all the options that exist, because Creston's model is very effective, but there's also other models, and this should be referred to the BEDC and to the chamber for further information as well, because of the implications to economic development. So as we go to this, we want to understand the big picture.
I believe prior to making any recommendations today, we should look at the documentation and then postpone it to a later meeting, and then we do the recommendations to council, to staff, I should say.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would agree with that, and I would agree with Mr. Allen.
Move on from there.
Yeah, certainly. How we'll look at the other options of governance.
Exactly.
We're looking for solutions, right? We're looking at ways to be able to do it. We're offering one, and I think the other very short point here is that that we're just interested parties in the airport. That the airport authority, if it were to be considered, would be made up of not maybe some flying club members, but other members of the community as well. There could be a member of council. It needs to be a broad.
This is why it's imperative to see the documentation so we can become aware of the vision that you folks have as the authority and what your proposed plans are. So once we're over that hurdle, then we can move on. Councillor Ross, my apologies for keeping you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I was just wondering through you, you had mentioned that the use of the airport was stagnant, and I was just wondering why you think that might be. Obviously, the cost of flying, insurance, storage, and maintenance of an aircraft is fairly high, and perhaps that could impact why use is stagnant for private airplane usage. And I was just wondering what the membership of the Flying Club is and what it has been historically over the past few years. And will this change in the way that the airport is being managed? How will that change the stagnant nature in which the airport is currently being used?
Mr. Mayor. In terms of the stagnant, or at least the perception as a part of the flying club members that the airport is stagnant, has to do with goes back to the master plan. The fact that if someone was to walk into the office, in the City Hall office today and say, I'd like to build a hangar, it's our, I guess, perception that the city officials would have a difficulty in saying, yes, you can have that lot there. Or if someone comes in with a business venture and says, I want to build a hangar and I want to develop aircraft widgets, and they were to come in, the city has a hard time being able to say, you can have that piece of property there, it's all ready, it's all serviced, it's ready to go. Right? That's the challenges that we have within the community in terms of creating or allowing or being open for new development, is that I don't believe that the city is in a position to do that right now. And you can maybe speak to the flying club.
Do you feel that's due to the fact that the master plan has been dormant so long?
I think that's part of it. I think the other thing, Mr. Mayor, is we had, not long ago, there was a segment of land which was divided off and provided to the fire department for their training facility. That was part of the master plan. And it was designated under the master plan or under the airport design plan for small hangar development. Well, when that happened, there should have been a trigger that said, oh, gee, we're dividing this land up. And maybe that was the right thing to do. But when that happened, then the master plan needed to be updated, or the drawing, or at least the planning document for the airport should have been updated at the same time. So it's all kind of interconnected in the sense that when you do one thing or you change the use of one thing, guess what? That triggers the airport. And that got neglected.
Where does he go, Mr. Allen?
Yeah, and what we're going to find, Mr. Mayor, is you know, quite a few good points. One of the biggest challenges for the city is servicing challenges at the airport. We looked at one development there, and it was going to cost over $500,000 to upgrade the water so we'd have proper water for firefighting purposes. Effluent for sanitary sewer as we move out there. Another requirement for us because it's all accepted. The challenge that we saw as we worked with talked to previous developers is you know, is a chicken and egg, right? Is the city going to invest $1 million in the airport to provide for future interest, and is that the priority right now? And it's a big discussion item. The other thing that's there's quite a bit of history with the fire department, and the fire department's been moved from the volunteer department has been moved from point A to point B. They were on different locations, and they finally found a home. And the decision of council several years back did trigger the effect on the hangar. So, you know, when we get asked about a hangar too, from time to time, it is challenging because we don't have the firefighting capacity to deal with any additional hangars at the airport. Our fire flows are so I believe we have a 6-inch water main to a certain point, and then it goes to 4-inch, and we won't meet our current standards. The fire chief would not be able to sign off on it, and the manager of engineering would not be able to sign off on it. Therefore, we won't be able to be in that position. So we would need to bring an upgrade of the water main out there to provide for the 2,250 liters per minute that we would be required to have a structure in place. So again, some of these challenges, but this is the thing that we can work through with the group and with an authority potentially, or moving forward with the plan, is how can we come up with these solutions and how can we fund these? I think the BEDC is the model for us to at least have a robust discussion.
Mr. Mayor, he hasn't finished about the number of active members.
My apologies for cutting in on you. Go ahead.
No problem, Mr. Mayor. So, just from the Flying Club perspective, right now we're at around 20 active members. The Flying Club was dormant for quite a few years. It kind of revived about 5 or 6 years ago, and we've been slowly making improvements to the airport. We've got a courtesy car that we provide there now for visiting pilots. We've been conducting a fly-in event every year, except when the fires preclude us from doing so. And our numbers are increasing. We've got a quite positive trend in membership. But I also wanted to point out that this proposal today, this idea, isn't just to benefit the Flying Club. Our concern is to see a healthy, vibrant airport that is attracting people as well as businesses and can help the airport grow, become closer to sustainable, and benefit everybody, not just Flying Club members. That's the hope here. So.
Councilor Butler.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering, if you see this reducing our staff costs out at the airport, if your society would then be taking over, so it wouldn't probably be costing us more money if our staff time is reduced, that would be a cost savings for us.
That's correct. That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ross?
I think this is, for me, the million-dollar question. What's the possibility of getting somebody, an airline like Pacific Air, to come in and out like they do out of Trail?
Mr. Mayor,
What do we have to do to get there?
We need to, our airport would have to become certified again. Oh, sure. Push the talk?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I like that. What we would have to do is, the airport would have to become certified again. I believe it was about 2004. I don't know, Dave maybe knows when we lost certification or dropped certification. And I think it was probably done purposely. Airports in the country, they're either a farm field airport, which is neither registered nor certified. And I'm getting technical, but here we go. If it's registered, it means that it's in a Canada Flight Supplement. The Canada Flight Supplement is a book that's carried by all pilots, and it provides all the information about the airport, where you're going, and the latitude and longitude, and what the runways are, and all the rest. That's what we are right now, is we're a registered airport. A certified airport is an airport which is certified by Transport Canada. You have a certificate which was to hold and operate and run that airport. In order to be a certified airport, you need to have a current operations manual. Our operations manual no longer became current when we went from certified to registered in, I believe, 2004. So that ops manual would have to be updated and redone. The key, and this is the heavy one, is that all airports that have commercial SCED traffic, you can have commercial traffic without SCED traffic, but if you have SCED traffic, scheduled airline coming in, it must be certified. If you have, for the certified airport, you need what they call safety management systems. Safety management system is a paper tracking system or system to be able to document all the aspects about the operation of your airport in regard to safety. It is a very long, convoluted process to do and very expensive to do. Transport Canada introduced this back in 2007, I believe, 2007, 2008, and it was done in a phased process. So you could start with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, all the way through. We would have to now have that SMS system in place, full-blown, if we were to get the airport certified. What I'm thinking and kind of holding back is, as the ace in our sleeve, so to speak, in regard to getting service, airline service into Grand Forks, is Transport Canada is currently looking at the issues associated with airports like ours, where there might be 1 or 2 flights a day. Does it really make sense to have a certified airport for 1 or 2 flights a day? They're looking at that as part of the whole airport issue right now. And in the last conference that I was at, I guess it was last spring, this was the second thing that they're working on in this whole issue regarding airports. First was talking about approvals from municipality level. But this second aspect would allow airports like those in the far north who only get 1 or 2 flights a day, and we've got flights that are in Rankin Inlet that get a couple flights, and they got to be certified. So what they're looking at is to be able to change regulation to allow small airports to remain certified and still get flights. Now, the other side of that is you look at a situation like Fort McMurray, and up in Fort McMurray, we've got 5 or 6,000 foot airstrips, all taking 737s. They don't have to be certified because they're not taking commercial flights. They're just charters. So that's the discrepancy that Transport Canada is working on, and I'm hoping that at some point, if they can work through that in the next few years, this isn't going to happen overnight, but in the next few years, that may be the way that we might be able to bring SCEDs back in here.
So are you saying that Transport Canada is looking at a classification system on certification, like a Class A certification, Class B? Is that kind of what you're looking at?
I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor. Try that again. I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, how that's going to work. But I do know that they are reviewing it, and they will have to come up with some regulatory way to be able to allow us to do that. They may have two, you may be right, that may be where they have two different types of classification in terms of certification, a certification A and a certification B, and A is, full-blown required, and B would simply just allow the single flights.
And along with that, they're probably going to assess the criteria of what size aircraft can land. Will that all be part of that?
It could be. It could be number of passengers, yes. That could be a way that they could control it, because obviously if you're landing 737s, then, geez, you know what, you better have a certified airport. But if you're landing, a Pilatus 9-seater or what Qualicum Beach does with Orca Air, they're using a Navajo, 10-seat Navajo to fill an airplane. Right?
So the feasibility is there for this airport, though?
I believe it is.
Thanks.
Even 3
I mean,
flights a week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Hammond. Oh. These ones don't automatically. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a point of interest, in the early 70s, we did have, and I'm dating myself, Pacific Western Airlines that used to fly into Grand Forks with a DC-10. And they left because of lack of use. And then Mont Air provided air service as well. And again, there just wasn't enough usage to warrant them continuing on here. So I love the idea of having commercial, one way or the other, airlines in here, but it has to be used by the community as well.
Councillor Hammond.
So I think what I'm understanding, though, is that there's nothing preventing a charter flight from coming in. If somebody wanted to set up a charter business and fly in once a week, they could do that because we are a registered airport. So we wouldn't necessarily need to be certified, because I can't see the possibility of a commercial airline putting in a regularly scheduled flight here on like two a day, or even 2 a week, or 3 a week. Because of the failures in the past with the lack of usage, but there would be nothing stopping a private or a charter company from operating out of this airport. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. There would, charter aircraft, it couldn't be scheduled time. It would be someone hire. It's an aircraft for hire. And yes, they can certainly do that. And having, a charter aircraft firm here would be a great asset to the community. And yes, you're right that any study would certainly have to go in place to look at projected numbers in terms of passenger movements and so on. And really, I guess that thought is also in line with the growth of the community. If our community grows and we've got more business and we get more things happening, and the airport is part of that community growth, if we have that community growth, then we may get to the point where it may be feasible, again, to try, or another firm may try to come in. At our present numbers, maybe not. But it's all about having a community that's dynamic and is growth, and looking at new industry and new business, and that dovetails with the aviation industry. The two go hand in hand, and one supports the other. And we may get to a point, but certainly I would tend to agree this is not something that's in the near future, but certainly long term is possible.
I have a question for you. Does your documentation show some of the criteria, the history, for instance, on the Creston Airport, like when it started, their usage? Does it show any of that in your documentation?
Mr. Mayor, actually, we don't have all the items you just mentioned, but we can certainly provide those as follow-up. What we do have as an example, what we have the Creston Airport and city agreement, and I believe there are some dates contained within that. But any other information you would like to have?
Just to see, like, if it started off and there was minimal usage and how it grew, and if it had any impact because of the growth of the community and so on.
So the
interesting factors to gauge by.
Of course, and the most notable statistic that the Creston is so very proud of course, is their medevac usage. They went from like 40 or 50 medevacs a year to, I believe it's over 300 a year now out of their airfield. And that's, you know, one of many factors, of course, but that's one of their crown achievements.
That's very interesting criteria, yes. Councillor Hammond.
Yeah, I just wanted one final comment. I was down at the airport on the Sunday of the flying, and I was impressed the last time I was down there, and I'm impressed now. And I walked around. It was later in the afternoon. I walked around, talked to some pilots, and I am totally impressed with the quality of services that Grand Forks has to offer for a community this size, and the airport being one of them. And I think we're so fortunate in this community to have these facilities. And I look forward to discussing this further to see how we can improve these, and the airport being one of them. And I just think it's a great idea as far as exploring this option further, and I look forward to bringing it forward in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, once again. Very, very interesting presentation, very intriguing and great dialogue and conversation. Thank you once again. We will go further. I'm looking forward to documentation.
Great, thank you very much.
Our next, may I have a motion to receive? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammond, all in favor? So carried. Next on the agenda is the Grand Forks Art Gallery Society. Subject matter is the presentation of financial quarterly update as per the fee for service funding agreement. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, Mayor and Council, I'm Terry Woodruff. I'm the Executive Director for the Grand Forks Art Gallery Society. And I'm bringing apologies on our original delegate forum. We said that Sandy McKellar was coming, who's our treasurer. And unfortunately, she has a work commitment she just could not get out of. So to support me is William Cayley, who is on our board. I'll present today. I give everybody a copy, a paper copy, because this is such dry information. And literally, this is just a supplement or an addendum to the last committee of the whole meeting that we presented at, where we actually gave our PowerPoint presentation, but we didn't give a full, proper financial report. So this is just that piece that was missing from the last committee of the whole meeting, if you like. So really, this is just my operational budget that I work off of. This is my snapshot to tell me how am I doing, how are we doing as
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are the financials, the official financials in yet?
No. Thanks, Mayor Konrad. No, the Thursday meeting, so this day after tomorrow, is the meeting that the Society will actually review with our accountant the 2015-16 financial statements, and then you'll get a copy of that as well as soon as they're approved. So my original intention was to bring those copies as well. But they will be included in the October 11th Committee of the Whole meeting, where we'll actually bring our fee-for-service request for the 2016-17 year, if you like. Okay, or the 17 year, now that we're on the new calendar year. Okay, so just a tiny little piece that we'll just bring up again. So this year now represents the first year that we are encapsulating the city's money and our operating budget sort of within the same time period, because our year end, we run April to March, and of course January to December is the city sort of operating budget time. So to dovetail those two, we have changed the funding payments from the city to be encapsulated in our year, where in previous years it didn't always happen, and we had some really uneven sort of funding issues that happened over a course of actually many years, where it looks like to me the January payment in a lot of years that would have been actually for that April 1st beginning year following it was actually used in the previous. So there's those kind of interesting things that have kind of gone on when you have a mismatch in your funding and your budget years. Anyways, we're back on track. We had a dramatic slash in our budget this year. We went from a budget of over $400,000, I think it was $440 last year. And we knew that we needed to really trim the budget, so we brought a budget in, approved budget last year at 302, a balanced budget on both sides. When I say a balanced budget, literally, you know, the way we have to present them is our expenses and our revenue, but our intention for this year is to come in well under budget. We'll be picking it up now in the September, October, November, sort of a slower time for us. This is when we will pick up our budget items. But I'm really happy with where the budget is sitting right now. We're on target. Our revenue side is up about 8% right now from where we expected to be, and our expenses are running right on where we expected them to be. Now, our higher staffing costs are just finished because we obviously bring on additional hours. We're open an additional day in the summer, and we have 3 summer students that we bring in. Their wages are compensated to about 70% through 2 different government programs, but we still have to carry a cost until we get those funds from the government as well. So all of that's looking pretty good to me. So I don't want to take up too much of your time today. As I say, this is just literally the snapshot of what could have been included in our last proposal, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a copy so that you can ask questions if there are any.
Councillor Krog and Councillor Thompson. Councillor Hammond. I figured out how to work it.
Yay.
Yay. Question on the second page, just a couple of quick ones. Artistic salaries. What is an artistic salary? Oh, sorry. That's me.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, it's the artistic salary would be the curator. So what I'll do just quickly is I'll take you down to the expense side there where you see all the salaries, and I'll explain who those bodies are. Who does that represent? So artistic salaries is a curator. And then you go down to facility operating expense where you see operating salaries. And that's myself, so the executive director and that's our visitors information center staff, the manager and her assistant. Also, those particular ones would include a summer student that works in the visitors information center. Marketing and communications is our staff member who does do all of our the newsletters that you've received, like all of our advertising, manages our market sort of presence, including Facebook, our blog, our website, memberships, so forth. Then you go down to the administration expenses, administration salaries. That's where I live, so that's the executive director and also administration support. Okay.
Dave, I see they've creeped up quite significantly as of June on the admin.
Yeah, so that's the 2 summer students that would be what we call gallery assistants when we apply for them through Young Canada Works. So that's 2 pretty much full-time bodies. We guarantee them 30 hours a week. And then that jumps up pretty significantly in the summer and then falls right back off again now, being finished.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Hammond and Councillor Butler.
Yes, I noticed that the BC Gaming Grant is $50,000 for the year calendar year. How does that compare to previous?
Thanks through to you, Mr. Mayor, through to Chris. $50,000 was our anticipated budget. That was our request that we put in. Previous years were 27.9. This has been for quite a few years. Now we just have had that, we've just received our approval and they approved it at 32,000. So down from our 50, which we kind of knew. I did run sort of a side budget to myself, still using the 27.9 as my sort of fail-safe figure. Like if they didn't give us any more money, where's my budget going to lie? But they did increase it to 32, so that was at least something, and that had not been raised for a few years.
Sure, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I remember when I was first on council and I did an analysis of the gaming grants that were given out, and they were dramatically decreased. And I don't know if, as a council, we should consider doing something, lobbying them to get back to where they should be, because this is This is detrimental to the operations of organizations such as yours and other supporting groups as well. So that is something that I think council may want to consider down the road.
If I may just interject for a minute here. On these budgeted grants, what is your anticipation of what percentage of these will you actually be getting?
So you'll see a column that sort of says confirmed annual totals. Those are the ones that we absolutely know for a fact. The budget last year, when I mentioned it was at about 440,000, I think, was built on including grants that were maybes. And I just am not comfortable with that type of budgeting. So basically, if I've put a grant in here, it's with some surety that either we're going to get it or we should get it. BC Gaming is the only one that we really put in here that we really anticipated we were due for an increase. And I knew that we may not get 50, but we still put 50 in there because when we apply for BC Gaming, we have to, in our approved budget, we must put in the full amount, the full ask. Everything else we can put in what the anticipation is or what the actual is. But when you see a budget, that BC Tourism Operating Grant, yes, that's it. That's a true figure, we got it. BC Arts Council Grant 18, yes, that's what we got. Regional District, yeah, 5,000, that is what we got. So most of the things that you see in here are grants are sureties. And everything else, and we apply for many more grants than this. That's sort of the wish list. Like we would hope to get them, but if they're not, if I can't count on them, I can't put them in a budget to bring in the shortfall that I had last year.
Are they subject to additional issues?
The increase this year, there's one that is kind of, we really need to craft carefully, and it's actually due at the end of September, and that's our BC Arts Council grant. They've changed the way they do the funding. So it was on a rolling 3-year grant. We got $18,000 every year for the last 3 years. So this is the first year now that they are looking at the new stream. We anticipate that we're going to be able to ask for more, but the criteria for that one is that the succession planning and strategic planning really be laid out and be included in that grant piece. So that's what the board is working on currently, is making sure. Now, I think I mentioned at our last meeting, we have our curator has announced his retirement, March 31st. My position, the executive director, was a new position that we had placed a previous incumbent in, and it just didn't work out for all sorts of reasons. So I came off the board and jumped into this position as a temporary cover. So now I've had enough time, as I said before, to really have a look at the operation. Can it afford those two bodies, a curator and an executive director? And I'm finding it cannot. So we'll recombine that position again. That will save some of the money. So now we're on the hunt. So back to the original question, a lot of our grants now will rely on that piece. That's how we're going to operate our gallery, on a director curator with a strong administration support.
Councillor Hammond.
This is just a bit of housekeeping, but I see where the Boundary Arts Council contributes $1,200 to you, and the City of Grand Forks contributes $7,500 to the Boundary Arts Council. We fund you to $142,000. There's got to be a housekeeping way that we can offset that without having it to come from us to them and then to you. So it's like coming full circle. So I'd like to see that maybe cleaned up a bit. I'm very disappointed, and this isn't an issue with the gallery at all. It's more the regional district's support of $5,000 to the city's $142,000. And I'd really like to see the regional district step up to the plate and contribute a more equitable amount so that it takes some of the burden off of us and it'll take some of the burden off of you and make things a little more balanced.
Mr. Mayor, obviously the RDKB issue is the one that's right, sort of in the forefront for how to craft the grant correctly, or the ask for that ongoing support. My understanding is it needs to be a referendum, that they need to be able to use taxation dollars for that, so that's a little bit larger process. As far as the Arts Council, my understanding of our local Arts Council, the $1,200, which we may or may not get depending, because last year they did not approve it, that money, they believe that money is actually coming from the BC Arts Council to use sort of for local
So I'm not clear, and I would have to ask that question of them. The funds that they get from the city, is that designated? Like, that's what I need to understand as well. Thank you for that question, Chris.
So the question I have, you referred to referendum, so you're telling me the RDKB would have to go to referendum to find out in respect to the amount of their funding?
What I'm understanding, just from a couple of very casual conversations, is it would go to, if they decided to do it, then they would need to go to referendum to actually place a large, if it was a large amount, like they give to the library or something, right? So then they would need to have the approval, right, of the taxpayers to use the funds, a significant amount of funds for that purpose. Is that anybody else's?
It's a new service.
Yeah. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Tripp.
$5,000 that comes from the regional district is actually coming from Area C. There was a referendum some years ago. I believe Jay Graven was then the mayor. And it was a formula, and I don't quite recall what the formula was, but it was $20,000 from Area D and $10,000 from Area C, and I believe the city had, I can't remember what the amount was, but it was supposed to be, in some people's mind, be strictly for the museum. And there was a real rift in the community with respect to those monies. And I know that Director McGregor, the $10,000 that she contributed, it was her decision to split that $10,000 between the museum and the gallery. Area D, those dollars went directly to the museum. And if the decision was to be gone again and reviewed for more cost sharing, it would have to go back to referendum. Director McGregor has indicated, and she did at that time anyway, at one time when it was being discussed, that she would not be prepared to take it back to referendum. So it would have to be a referendum between Area D and the City of Grand Forks, and that is something that needs to be discussed with Director Russell. So I'm just not trying to muddy waters, but just to give a little background on those fundings.
Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Terry. Just a couple of questions. I noticed on here that the gallery sales was, gift shop, that's what I was looking at here, the $17,000, and that's already generated $15,000 worth of income. That sounds pretty good to me. So are you anticipating quite a bit more coming in? And then I have another question after that one, but if you could answer that one.
Mr. Mayor, through to Julia, or to Bev. It did a dramatic change in the gift shop because we had kind of moved away from our mandate over a course of a few years, and we were handling a lot of what we call offshore products. The board was not happy with that and asked the employee group to please take it back to the mandate, to an artisanal art gallery type of a gift shop, which we did. So we lowered the budget dramatically. We've had some really good successes. So it is up over budget currently for the sort of the running time, pleasantly so. So we anticipate that it's going to move up, of course, with our Christmas season coming as well. So it's supporting a lot of local artists and artisans as well as regional. So it's a real win-win. We're really happy with that.
If I could add to that, with the shift in our focus of the gift shop, our costs have been much reduced because there aren't the buying trips that there used to be, and the money's staying here. It's supporting local artists and artisans.
Quick question on your memberships. I noticed it has dropped also. Also your art rental sales. What is the reason behind that?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I still had one more question, if I may. Sure. Yeah, the other question had to do with the fundraising events. I saw there that you'd allocated $15,000 that you expected to get in, and then that's just down to, it's just at 4,000. Can you maybe just comment on that? Thank you.
Super, thanks once again, Mayor Konrad through to Bev. That fundraising figure represents the bulk of our wine tasting, which is held in November, so that's carried forward. However, we do have a little blurb in there of the 4,000, or it's actually net 3, for a successful Taps and Tapas event that we just did. So that was our first summer event that we did as a fundraiser. We kept it very limited to 100 tickets. We needed to see, will this work? It was very successful, and we cleared $3,000 to the society, so that was well worth doing for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, to my question.
Thank you, Mayor Konrad. So on, the question is on the art rentals. Is that your, yeah. But once again, that one is, because the art rentals process, some of our patrons or clients who use the art rentals do it on a monthly, quarterly, or annually. So some of our income will come uneven. So they'll be paying maybe at the end of October, they may be paying in December, so forth for all of their art rentals in their offices. So that one is pretty standard, like it's got a $12,000 earned revenue budget item, and typically that's where we get. So and that's just our contracted amount of money that we kind of know with some surety that's what it's going to be. And I'm sorry, Mayor Konrad,
Membership decline.
Membership, thanks. And the same thing, that membership is pretty much based on when people's memberships expire, and the bulk of them expire more around that wine tasting time. We tend to do a lot of our membership sales kind of around that time. And the AGM, of course, as well. Yeah.
Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, I just want to say that you're only 5 months into your fiscal year end, and I see a good portion of them, you're at 50% or exceeding at this point, so I'm thinking it's looking pretty good.
I'm pretty happy with where it is sitting. Because I still have, 6-7 months to be able to reduce some line items on the wages side is sort of where we anticipated. It's looking like we're going to be able to cover off, and you'll see in the next presentation in October, when you see our approved budget year over year, you'll be able to see sort of what we were struggling against from our last year into this year. That I'm pretty darn happy with how things are working out.
Do we have Councillor Butler?
Yeah, it was just a quick question going back to your expenses for administration salaries. Was that for one full-time person and 2 summer students? Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julia and Mayor Konrad. That represents myself, so I'm working 3 days a week currently. So at the beginning part of the year, I was working 4, I think. Wendy Butterfield, who is our administration support, she's also reduced her hours, so she's currently working 3, but now we'll be jumping back up to 4 days a week, and then the 2 summer students. So it's 2 part-time, yeah. That's the line item that I hope to bring in well under budget.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you for your presentation. I have a motion to receive. Councillor Ross, Councillor Hammond. All in favor? So carried. Be looking forward to seeing you in October.
Very good. Thanks a lot.
Councillor Butler?
Just wondering if we could take a 5-minute recess for minute privilege.
Sure. Next items on our agenda are the presentations from staff. Services. Subject matter is the Volunteer Appreciation Night, call for nominations, policy number 204. The recommendation is that council provides notice to the public calling for nominations from the public for exceptional volunteer service in the city of Grand Forks in accordance with policy number 204 at the September 6, 2016 regular meeting. May I have a mover? Councillor Butler, Councillor Ross. All in favor? So carried. Again, under corporate services, subject matter memorandum regarding community engagement pop-up town halls. Recommendation. The committee to all received for information the memorandum regarding community engagement pop-up town halls from corporate services. May I have a move, please? Councillor Ross, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under the topics for the town hall, I sent you an email on this, that for the October one, staff is recommending discussing water meters, and unfortunately my councillor's report was denied this for tonight's meeting because I had made a mention to water meters, and council had passed a motion a few months ago that we were to talk about this subject. So I'd like to ask that the October topic be changed in accordance with council's motion.
My last comment was we were holding off on that until further discussion anyway. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. I was noting on the proposed schedule of topics that for the end of August, that stormwater management and municipal natural assets initiative, I don't believe that's been undertaken, and probably because we didn't have the August council meeting, and I see Ms. Winton over there raising her hand. So my question would be, would we be able to push out the timelines? That would be one question. And another question that I would have is there a possibility that we could survey somehow the community to find out what their topics might be, what they would like to see questioned about? Because I'm just wondering, is there a little bit of a difference there between what the staff feel they would like to see as information as opposed to what the residents of the community might be wanting, what they might feel are the most important topics for the community?
I think that's an issue we could probably discuss at a briefing, and we could go over all of these subjects and then prepare it properly and put it out there so that all council has a chance to put their ideas in place.
Thank you.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great initiative. Just looking at this report, citizen satisfaction survey notes and the different options that we've been given for that. I was thinking, and I made a note of this, that we could do, I think it's a fun thing to do as well, is have just one question per month on the city website, so that it's interactive and it gives people an opportunity and an incentive to actually visit our website, answer the question. It could be yes, no, with comments, and then change it up every month. And it gives us an opportunity to discuss what questions we need to ask based on the comments that come the month before. So instead of doing just one survey, just do one question a month.
You're one of the council.
Am I?
Yes, you are. We're talking on the pop-ups.
Oh, we're still on, oh, okay, I thought,
Yeah.
all right. Oh, yeah, so the comment I just made, just carry it forward.
We'll use it in there next time.
Same time.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just had wondered if that question could be answered about pushing out about pushing out the schedule. Well, because the first topic has not been able to be, we haven't been able to have that pop-up town hall yet. That's my understanding anyway.
We're a month out.
So just
Right.
carry it forward.
Yes, because I instructed staff to hold off on this for more discussion.
So we just need to push it all
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, it'll be improvised and modified. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Butler.
These are only proposed topics, so they're certainly subject to change if council as a whole would prefer to discuss something else. So, thanks for the proposals.
And you will.
Yeah.
You will go there and you'll want to talk about dog parks, and people will talk to you about fire engines. It doesn't matter what type of open house we hold, people are going to talk to you about whatever topics they're going to talk to you about. A schedule is a schedule, so we can maybe invite those people out to talk about these key topics, but you know they're going to come talk to you about the lawnmower being started too early next door, and that will be potentially what will happen.
Okay, so may I have a motion to receive? Yeah, we did. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Receive. So carried. Moving on to item C. Councillor Ross's discussion already. May I have a motion to receive the memorandum regarding the citizen satisfaction survey from Acting Corporate Officer Communications. May I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Thompson and Councillor Hammett. Discussion, if any. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I think the topics that have been put forward here are great ideas. It's recommended different ways of carrying this out. I'd like to see this done in-house if possible and not farmed out to another firm. It's just extra expenses. I don't want to see us incur for a survey. The questions that have been put forward, I find that sometimes, when we're in the city, we're on council or on staff, we talk about stuff and we get it, but people out in the community, they're on a different page, they're doing their own thing, and when you say community services, to us that means something different than it means to them, and I think the questions could just be more reworded into layman's terms. When you say, is the city adapting to meet the needs of the community in the future? Most people out there don't know. They don't have any ideas. So just to maybe be a bit clearer on some of the topics, are we meeting current services? Are they meeting the needs? We'll tell them what our services are, the main ones, and let them
Rate them accordingly.
Yeah. So I'd like to see the questions a bit more reworded, but in-house, not at an expense.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I hear what Councillor Butler is saying, but from my perspective, the city some years ago did try their own in-house survey, and it just didn't work as well as I would have liked to have seen it work. I think going outside, and we can get quotations from different organizations who provide this service, takes any bias or prejudice or whatever out of the questions that are being asked. These are the sort of the things that we want to know in generalities, and then you have professionals who know how to word the questions to formulate those and put it out. And I think that the information that we would get back would be far more meaningful than trying to do something in-house, which the cost is, we're not going to be saving any money by doing that. So I would support when the time comes to having it professionally done.
Point, Councillor Thompson, because it costs nothing to get a quotation. And then we can always assess it there compared to staff time, etc. Councillor Hammett.
I'm sure this isn't something that hasn't been done before by other communities, and there must be a template set up that we can borrow, that we wouldn't have to spend. There must be a standard template of the survey for communities our size that we can access. So perhaps that's an option.
Councillor Drift and Councillor Thompson.
Yes, also too, I'm just wondering, is this already in the budget? Is it a line item in the budget? And would we have to come back would we have to get, reapproval on the budget for this?
I will move from Councillor Crogg first, then Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Ross.
Point of order, can she get her question answered?
Sorry.
Asking about the budget, would it need to come back to the council for changing the budget?
For which item?
For if we were to have consultants doing the survey.
Well, we're not quite there yet. We have to get a quotation first, and it might not be a consultant for doing it. So it's kind of in limbo right now. It's all hypothetical.
Point of information, is this in the budget? That's her question.
Is it in the budget? Yes.
It's in the work on the budget, yes.
It is in the budget?
Yeah.
For how much?
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Your Worship. We've budgeted anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 to do it.
Wow, so there's a lot. Okay, Councillor Crogg, then Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Ross. Councillor Crogg's been waiting.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Hammett. Yes, if you do want to go out for a quote, that's fine. It doesn't cost us anything really. But just a simple Google search popped up 28 different community satisfaction surveys. Now each community is unique, but you could actually sit there and take the best questions that somebody else has already paid for and put it that way. So that's what I would like to see. And it's not plagiarism. So we'll change it.
Yeah, we won't use their answers.
Is this in the direct response? or-
Yeah, just kind of give, just maybe it'll help alleviate some of the questions and concerns. So we budgeted the money to undertake the survey because there's still going to be a considerable amount of staff time to disseminate the information, process it, provide a report, make sure it's accurate. Development of the questions and the process can be there. There's going to be a combination of staff time and professional time, but if not, then we're going to have to hire a staff person to come in and help with this because we already have the work plans in place for the year and the additional information. We're expecting to put out 1,000 surveys, and we'll expect to go anywhere from 300 to 400 back. When we get that information back, it has to be disseminated and reported back to the council. That's a considerable amount of staff time involved with a survey. On top of the corporate communications, with all the additional corporate communications, budget planning that we're going into this year, and I could go on with the list with the developers coming in and asking the questions, the preparation of events, the preparation of all the different things. So there is going to need to be some support. We already run a lean organization when it comes to providing the services, so we don't have a whole bunch of spare time within the corporation, within the professional departments, because our departments aren't filled with additional people. So again, just this perspective, but we can always take something off the plate and do this other project, but it's up to council in that respect. But the questions right now are being formulated to provide the answers based on council's strategic planning, based on the direction that council want to go for community engagement. We're looking back to that based on levels of service and asset management and financial position of the city. So again, that's the direction that our staff is working in. If that direction is changed, council will let us know, and then we'll move that direction away from that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know taking surveys from other municipalities is not plagiarism, but there are no two municipalities that are alike, really. And hearing what our administrator said with respect to time and priorities and so on and so forth, if council really, really, really wants to know what our public thinks, what their levels of satisfaction are, then I believe quite firmly that it has to be done, and it has to be done professionally. Not that I don't think our staff isn't capable of doing that, that they are, and they are professional. But if it's in the budget to already have this service provided, then I don't have any problem with requesting quotations and bringing it back to council for consideration. I don't really think that our staff have the time to do that.
Councilor Ross.
Okay, so just because we're talking about it doesn't mean we have to do it. And if you go back to what the rationale of this is, it says why the survey is intended to increase effectiveness of council's decision-making and will help gauge the level of satisfaction of residents in regard to city services and to ensure that council's strategic plan aligns with the priorities of the community. Well, we do a lot of that through our open houses. And really, the open houses are like a living survey, where people are invited to participate, like they are invited to participate in a survey. And return rates on a survey, if you get a 45% return rate on a survey, that is astounding. I think having our open houses, which we have, and I would suggest, we just have more, maybe once every 2 months or something. It's an opportunity for us to get all that done. We have our pop-up city halls. It's another opportunity for people to come and tell us what we can do better. And like I said previously, a question of the month. It's a monthly one-question survey answer. What's a hot topic right now? And we have that, the question of the month. And people get used to going to our website or the Facebook page and being able to answer the question of the month and give their comments. I just think that that is an inexpensive, interactive way for us to get this rationale achieved without doing a survey. I don't think that surveys, they quickly become dated, and no matter what we do, we're going to be asking the wrong question, and I just think this way. And then even we can even ask people, what do you want us to focus on? What do you want to gauge? You're a community member. What do you want to know how other people feel about unsightly premises, or the dog park, or our environmental protection plans that we've had? So I just think that we don't need to go forward with a formal survey. There's other ways of gauging the level of satisfaction and helping people to help us to be more effective in our decision-making without doing a survey.
Councillor Thompson, without being disrespectful, we're beating this to death. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think what Councillor Ross is suggesting is very complementary to a professional survey. And by doing a professional survey of the community as a whole, you are going to be able to get responses from individuals who otherwise may not come to an open house or be in town when we have a pop-up question, or don't have access to the web. And there are a lot of people that don't use computers and don't have. If we did a mail out, then you are able to get responses from those people you otherwise wouldn't hear from. And that's my last word on the issue.
Council obviously seems to be a little divided on this subject matter, so we'll move on. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of receiving? Anyone opposed? So carried. Moving on to our next subject matter from the Acting Corporate Officer and Manager of Operations. It's the subject matter is the Community Signs Project and the future of the Expo sign. The recommendation is that Council receives the Community Signs Project report and refers it to the September 19th, 2016 regular meeting for decision, and further that the Committee of the Whole receives the request and further directs staff on the direction of the future of the Expo sign at the September 19th, 2016 regular meeting for decision. May I have a mover? Councillor Ross, Councillor Hammett. All in favor? So carried. From our Manager of Operations, subject matter early budget approval for 2016 for holder replacement. Recommendation.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I think we jumped ahead in the agenda and you went to the community signs and the expo signs. Those are two different agenda items. They both say 4D, but
Yeah, we just read it.
those are two different.
I think the managers were going to explain what that meant today, and then for council to have the decision. Just because I believe they prepared information to report out to council, if council so wishes to hear it. Sorry to, I just like to make sure, because it is a, it's for us operationally, it's one of these elephants in the room for us. Is like, do we keep it? Do we don't keep it as an asset? Do we want to keep it? Was it meant for 1986, or do we want to keep it until, and the deputy corporate officer or acting corporate officer has some suggestions that maybe coincides with the business association and the chamber. So
Yeah.
it might be worth hearing them.
Just the way the recommendation was.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Receipt only.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in the report, kind of outline the basic evolution of the sign that was brought into place during the Expo 86 and how it's kind of evolved over time. Since then, we've added 2 Welcome to Grand Forks signs that are lit up with the new branding and logo. One of the issues that we have at this location is it doesn't have city water. So to water this sign, we have to put a pump and draw water from the river across the road to water the sign. So the last 2 years, we have decided not to draw water from the river, and we have let it kind of brown up, which has brought on some comments towards operations not looking after the sign, but there was some rationale of why we didn't want to go that way. So we're just looking at the future of this site and whether we need it as it currently exists or different options, which Sarah can speak to now.
Thank you. So we've heard quite a few times from both the Chamber and the Downtown Business Association, as well as other businesses. We did have a business roundtable last fall in partnership with Area D and Community Futures. And so some of the most feedback that we're hearing is that people would like to see directional signage and wayfinding signage throughout the city that directs people to our downtown and our city park and some of the other amenities that we have. It's complicated because our main corridor is highways jurisdiction, so we have to be very sort of conscious of what locations we're choosing for signs. What we have done is gone out and pulled out some areas that we think are good locations and viable in terms of placement, and we'd like to work with the Chamber and the Downtown Business Association on design and also some of those locations and what they would like to see on those signs. This happens to be at the Expo site, which is a great spot for a large sign on the east end of town. It's already there, the footings are already there, which is a big cost savings. This is just an example of what it might look like. We definitely want to work with the other organizations and stakeholders in the community and figure out what it's going to look like and what information will be included. These are just some examples, and you can see this on the Expo site. So I guess one of the questions for this particular site will be, do you want to keep it or get rid of it altogether, or revamp it? There's a map here, sorry. So right here, some of the locations for the signs. You saw the Expo site for the east entrance to town. There is a spot out by Extra Foods, right on Central, just past the turnoff to the North Fork or Spraggett, that we would place a large sign for the west entry point. And then in the downtown core, just off of Central, one in Gyro at the corner of Gyro Park, and one across the road at the northeast corner of Overweighty parking lot. Southeast corner of the Overweighty parking lot. We would have smaller, more wayfinding type signs, but they would all be interconnected. They would all be work together, I guess. And one of the biggest things that we'd like to see for the signage is that we are incorporating the branding and following all of that criteria. So that's one reason to get going this year. We have budgeted for this, to get at least the 4 major signs this year and work with the rest of the stakeholders also on coming up with a sort of a 3 to 5 year signage plan that we could pick away at over the next few years and accomplish all of those wayfinding signage placements that we hope to.
Councilor Hammond, Councilor True.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Acting Corporate Officer. I'm assuming that the 2 on Central are smaller than the actual east and west entrance ones. And so I like the idea, but I'd like to see an additional one at 2nd and Central, because one arrow could point down to RV parking at Supermoto Park, and the other one would face north towards the pickleball and tennis courts. So before leaving town and crossing the bridge, there should be another one at 2nd, because that would lead also into the downtown corridor.
Thank you, Your Worship. That would be part of the public consultation, or consulting with our stakeholders about what to be included and where we can place signs. There's a lot of property along there that's also private property, as well as not going to be viable according to the MOTI. So. Thank you. That answered one of the questions that I was thinking of. Exactly that same spot would be a good spot for a sign. So then I'll just go on and address, if I can, the Expo sign. And so I was out there yesterday, and I sent some pictures through to the councillors about what that looked like. And one of the thoughts that I had, and I'm just throwing it out there, right? That if we could keep the Expo sign in the Grand Forks, which is nice because it designates who our town is, but maybe enhance that with some black slag or something that would be an offset color, and then just repaint those rocks white. We were talking about how in the east the students have to do community service, and so we were thinking, might this be a great community service project for a group that they could commit to voluntarily going out and cleaning that up. And then the other thing that that was talked about was, could we ask the maybe the schools art the classes to have some kind of a contest to come up with a really nice looking sign.
Councillor Crowe. And Councillor Butler.
Yeah, there's signage has been a topic over and over and over, and how to get people into the downtown. Keep in mind, we don't have to just rely on a metal or wooden sign. You have the opportunity to work with existing business owners. Good example is Magnum Auto, the building next to it, which used to be Hinter's building. That whole side could be a mural or a sign pointing to downtown. The other thing with the expo sign, I've always liked it. Don't know if I like the generic camping logo thing we just saw stuck on it. Councillor Butler posted on Facebook asking people what they thought, and people were submitting pictures. I don't know if you've seen it lately. And some of them are really nice. And when Trail first did theirs, I don't know if they still did it, they used synthetic. So we don't have water there, but the green is way more striking than our slag or black or anything like that. And with the synthetics from Rymar, that type of thing, you can have a lush green sign and with no maintenance other than the actual physical parts that have to be painted or changed, like the name and the flag. So inexpensive fix would be welcome there. The other thing too is people do pull over and get their pictures taken there. So if you're going to do anything to the sign, then it should be with that in mind, that it's not just information. They're already rolling into town, right? It's more that here's something we're stopping for and looking at, and then you can have smaller information signs there for the people that actually stop. So I would suggest we look at synthetic.
Councillor Butler, and the gentleman in the back, and then Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, I like both Councillor Tripp and Councillor Crog's ideas. I think with the branding that we want to stick to, the black slag behind the white letters, just in that Grand Forks section would look nice, and then with the synthetic green perhaps around it. The general consensus out there is I think that people want to keep it. They want to see it fixed up, and if we don't fix it up, then get rid of it. But I think it's great that we do keep it as a legacy and fix it up. The signage that was recommended, yeah, I'm not overly fond of either. I know it was just an idea just to show us, but I think it would be great to get community involvement to help design the sign, get the kids involved. If the kids are involved, it's probably less likely to get vandalized as well if it's their idea and they're involved in it, and it saves us a bundle. We don't need to keep going to consulting firms. We've got lots of talented people here in town that could do that. I'm just distracted. With the wayfinding signs, I think it's important that we direct people at the traffic lights if they're coming into town so they turn down 2nd or 5th, because that's where it would be easiest for RVs to turn. So if our signage is placed in such a way that we can direct them down those 2 streets in a circle, perhaps parking in the areas out here where it's available for RV parking.
Les Johnson, 2 things about this. That first example of us using the expo sign for all that stuff. People generally are moving when they go by there. If the sign's too busy, you're just not going to get it, unless they stop, of course. But at stop signs, at red lights, etc., that's where you could put up something. You don't have to rent a ton of space. You could make use of the telephone poles the same way the garage sale people do. Just put box signs on them because people are stopped and they have time on their hands. it. Now, I like the idea that he was talking about where people stop and get their picture taken. If you look at what they've done in Greenwood, in that little lot at the west end of town, they have the thing that they put up for Founders Day where people can stop and stick their faces in the holes and get their picture taken. We could get somebody to reconstruct Sasha. As far as I know, he's still our logo, or not our logo, but our mascot, and put something up like that. I mean, it would be an attractive thing for people to stop at, because we want them to stop. Anyways, that was my 2 cents.
I just want to throw something in. Mr. Mayor, so before we start putting actions on the highways, we'll have to get Ministry of Transportation approval for entrance and access onto and off of the highway. My recommendation, the staff recommendation would be to refer this to the business community, because they're the ones that are coming forward and asking for the input. They're the ones that are asking for the directional wayfinding signage to their businesses. And I just would hate to see council make a decision on something without being consulted with the business community, because the business community are the people that have the stake in the downtown core, that have made the investment in there. And I think that the BI, or the downtown, I can get it right anyway, the Business Improvement Association, DBA, and the Chamber, and then consulting with the other major stakeholders, and then bring a report back to council after that's happened.
Councillor Hammond, then Councillor Thompson.
Yes, I definitely think we should keep the expo sign because it is a legacy. But you were talking about synthetic, and I'm just going to that Facebook page where Councillor Butler posted, and I'm reading the comments. But one of the things I remember from a news article a while ago, City of Vancouver, in order to cut the maintenance costs on mowing the boulevards, actually sprayed an artificial grass. It looks and feels just like real grass, but they never have to mow it. You don't have to water it. So it saves water and it saves maintenance. And it's expensive, but I mean, in the long run, it's certainly it's a one-time deal. But one of the other suggestions here was using our natural rocks that we mine here, using some slag to fill in some space, and some of the original quarry stones that we have here.
Thank you. Just a comment in respect to what Les Johnson said with respect to Sasha. And I believe the late Peter Perapulkin copyrighted that. So you may have to check with, to see whether or not, before anybody considered doing that, whether or not it is available for that purpose.
Gloria Cook, I believe the city used to use the Sasha logo as their logo, did they not? So how did that work?
Well, they did. They had the Sasha signs, but and they had the signage on the lap standards, I believe, as well. That was then taken down, and as I said, Peter Perapulkin had the rights to that. So, he himself told me, so with his not being with us anymore, I don't know where that would legally stand.
So was that copyrighted before or after the use that the city used? The city using it?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
The gentleman in the back, then Councillor Hammond.
I want to respond to that question.
Which question?
The one that was just asked.
The gentleman wants to do.
I just wanted to point out that when the Downtown Business Association, before the one that's right now came in front of you, when they were being reformed, Peter Perapulkin had actually been keeping the legal organization alive by paying the funds every year because of his community spiritedness, because he knew eventually he would have to come back. So it's possible that if he had actual rights to the sign, that was taken care of in some way too. And I believe Peter Matheson had something to do with the creation of the sign, so he may know more. That's all.
Councillor Hammond.
The Sasha sign was used as the logo for the chamber, the Grand Forks Chamber of Commerce, not the city. It was the chamber. And it was created by Peter, and my understanding is it reflects a Cossack soldier, not the traditional Duke horse that we have here. So I think it would be offensive for most of the troubadours in this community, and I think that's why it was not used and taken out.
Unless there's any other questions.
Not a question, just for the motion.
Yeah.
The motion reads to refer it to the September 19th regular meeting of council. I'm just wondering if we need to include something else in the motion to direct staff to receive feedback from the next Downtown Business Association meeting where the delegation had mentioned that they were going to be bringing forward ideas on signage. I'd like to see those ideas brought forward to council at the September 19th meeting as well.
Yours, CEO.
I think the referring to the 19th meeting might be a little ambitious for the DBA and the chamber folks to all give their input. I think for the council committee of the whole to recommend that staff take it to the DBA and the chamber meeting for input, and let them provide a series of recommendations, and then we could bring it back when the time, because the timing for the September 19th meeting would be a week. The deadline is 8 days before that for the agenda preparation. So that would leave us until, I think, the day after tomorrow or something to get things prepared. So just in preparation, we'd like to, can be the whole refer it to ask staff to take it to the stakeholders, the DBA and the chamber.
Yeah, refer it to staff and come back.
And then maybe then we can have some input from them, because the chamber and the DBA might say, we've got a great idea, or we would like you to consider this.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. And I'd just like to combine these two agenda items. I think the expo signage and the wayfinding signage, they're two items right now, but I think they should be combined into one.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I just made that motion that we direct staff to.
We already had a motion on the floor. The recommendation, and I had a motion on both of those, and further that committee of overseas, I could have it read back. Did we have a motion on the original? I believe we did. I had a mover and a seconder. Yes, we did, eh?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just kill it. All in favor of the original motion? All opposed? Motion falls off. Now, Councillor Bowden, can you read out your motion?
Just that council recommends that staff take the information of signage to the Downtown Business Association and the Chamber and the BDC to receive feedback and bring it forward. We didn't have a date for the meeting, so just to bring it back.
At our next meeting.
But at the earliest date possible.
Yeah. May I have a second?
There's no second.
No, I just wanted to make a correction to Councillor Butler's resolution. Maybe you could change it to staff work with the chamber and the DBA. It's not the BADC, it's the DBA on signage options. I don't believe the BADC is involved.
Well,
is it?
They're talking about signage too.
Okay, so the three organizations. Yes. I didn't hear you say the DBA.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. All right. Moving on to our manager of operations, the early budget approval for the 2016 for holder replacement. And the recommendation is that the committee of the whole receives the report and that council provides a decision for early bird budget approval for September 2016 in the amount of $200,000 from the Equipment Reserve Fund for the holder replacement as slated for 2017 in the 20-year capital plan at the September 6, 2016 regular meeting. Councillor Thompson. Discussion. Councillor Butler, Councillor Tripp.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. 200,000 is a lot of money to spend, so I'm wondering what is the rush in spending it? It says something about to take advantages of changes in the market, so I'm wondering what that means, changes in the market, and what the maintenance costs were. Is there something that's gone wrong with this machine that it needs to be replaced for snow removal this winter, or what's the rush?
To our manager of operations, Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no imminent rush on this. This is for flexibility. As I mentioned in the report, it is okayed for the 2017 budget under the 20-year capital plan. This is the only machine that does certain things for us, the sidewalk sweeping to reduce water consumption with washing up all the sidewalks. And it's the only machine that fits on certain sidewalks for sanding and plowing in the winter.
Love the sidewalk. Yeah.
So it does, it's probably one of our most used pieces of equipment. This is our second one of this model, this older type. We have had one back from '96 that we started to have maintenance issues that the mechanic had to split the machine in two, and it's quite labor intensive and takes a lot of time. So if we are down during some of our seasonal maintenance that only this machine can provide, you know, there's going to be a disruption in service where we're going to have to try to accommodate in other ways. So basically this was just, it won't have any financial impact by the end of 2017. One of the complicating factors is if I ordered the plow truck tomorrow, we would receive it in March of next year, just with the build time and everything else. I'm not sure what the lag time is from ordering this, so we have to put RFPs together, we have to do our market research. If we switch machines, there's attachment remodifications. We're looking at, with the 200,000, purchasing some of the attachments because they're all from the 1996, or not all of them, but some of our key items like the sander and the dump box and the lawn mowing and the sweeper. And it's quite a versatile machine for us, but a lot of the attachments are from the 1996 original purchase. So this is just to allow us some flexibility to start the process with the RFP and kind of get things going, and so we can time it where it will work best for us.
Councilor Tripp.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, and through to staff. That answered a lot of my questions. Am I right in hearing what I think I'm hearing you say is that the increased maintenance isn't necessarily a financial factor, but it's actually a factor of keeping the thing off the road, not being able to do the job that needs to be done?
Correct.
So then I was interested in this, and I went online myself and I looked up these holders because I thought, what in the heck is a holder? I better know what what you're talking about here. And I saw that there is a Canadian company that makes these back east, but they have a lot of used ones, and the used ones have I noted here the 5,000 hours, and you can get used ones from anywhere with like 1,500 hours and up. And the costs seem to be somewhere 35,000 to 65,000, and I don't want to be doing your job, but just for information purposes, so that I could understand the financial aspect of it. I don't know if there's an option to look at used. Does used help in any way, extend the life out, or anything like that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we do equipment purchases, we usually do look for low-hour equipment or demo models that are available, and some of that does speak with the market changing and the conditions that were there. There's some changing of, I guess, manufacturers and selling agreements or retailer agreements. So there may be an opportunity, there may not be, but we would try to take all that into consideration. We don't want to have something that's maybe a 3,000-hour used machine, just due to the fact that we only purchase them, every 10 years or whatever. So we don't want to put ourselves in a situation that is detrimental, but we do try to take all that into account.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the resolution does not state 200,000, it's up to 10. So you have that option, so with the RFP. Councillor Ross and Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, I was echoing Councillor Tripp's. I'd like to echo what Councillor Tripp had said. If I've been a farmer for a long time and I've bought a lot of tractors, and if I was given a budget of $200,000 to buy a tractor with equipment, I could get myself something really nice. I was just wondering what the horsepower of this is, and I'm assuming it's a diesel, so you're going to get more life out of the piece of equipment in question. So yeah, what's the horsepower? And I assume it's diesel? Is it diesel? Yeah, okay. How many horse?
I think it varies on the model you get,
Right.
but I think it's about
80? 80? Oh, okay. So $200,000 would basically buy you a brand new machine with equipment, with attachments, I would have assumed. Anyway, yeah, I just want to echo that we could look at low hour, 1,500 hours on a piece of diesel equipment like this, I think is a great deal. I would encourage that for sure. And that we can also sell ours, because previously when I came back from the Sustainable Communities Conference, I did speak about that online auction, Government of Canada, which is municipalities as well, where we can put our used equipment up for auction and it can get sold anywhere in Canada. Do we ever use that so we can sell pieces of equipment like this to organizations or other municipalities who might be looking for something like that? How do we sell our equipment? Like, we'll sell that older, I assume.
through you, Mr. Mayor. We have looked at different asset disposal models. We haven't used the government disposal site that you were talking about, but I am looking into that to see if that maybe can alleviate some of the other things. We do trade them in usually, or hold them on consignment and sell them through a retailer.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sure that there are used pieces of equipment out there that would certainly meet or could meet the city's needs. My only concern is, why are they being sold and are we buying somebody else's problems? That's the only thing I'm very leery of. I go back to the days when the council had our public works repairing the equipment with chewing gum and baling wire, and I don't want to go back to those days.
Thank you, Council. I caution Council, we're getting a little too operational here on this subject matter. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the councillor's questions on this item. It's important to understand the details if we're going to be spending $200,000. And I'd also like to echo their ideas of looking for a gently used piece of equipment if possible, not rushing into buying something right away, and taking a good look around to see if we can find something that is in better condition, because we know when we buy new that as soon as it comes off the lot it depreciates substantially, and it's still probably in good condition with light use.
I'm sure our managers are fully qualified in that aspect, and we'll be looking at the latter first before buying new. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to our CAO and Manager of Operations. This is just a resolution that you're looking for the authority to proceed.
No, we're just receiving the report here.
We're receiving it, but there's also...
actual approval comes this evening at a regular meeting.
Yes, but that is what, I just want to be sure that that's what we are being asked to authorize. It's just so that you can proceed with getting quotations and coming back prior to.
Mr. Mayor, we will be following the council purchasing policy, so no, once council, tonight, if council does provide the resolution, we'll be making the purchase. And that's how we won't bring the purchase back and explain all the pieces to council, and that we're asking council to hear the manager's report. It's slated to be replacing the approved 20-year capital plan for 2017. So the manager is trying to take advantage of opportunities that exist right now. And it's just like paving. Sometimes it's beneficial to pave early in the year when the companies have been shut down all year. Sometimes it's beneficial for us to seek the opportunities on equipment such as this at this time of year. So the manager will go out as a request for proposal, and in his proposal, it'll meet the terms of council's purchasing policy, and then it'll come back and be reviewed, and then it would be purchased.
So we're micromanaging.
All right. I believe we have a motion on the table to receive the report. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. For our Manager of Development and Engineering, subject matter is the memorandum regarding the Sustainable Community Plan Update Status Report. The recommendation is the Committee of the Whole receives for information the memorandum regarding the Sustainable Community Plan Update Status Report from the Manager of Development and Engineering. May I have a mover? Councillor Ross. Discussion. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, just a quick question for staff. The charging station was mentioned in here, and I'm just wondering what type of usage we're seeing out there for the electric vehicle charging station.
Our Manager of Operations, Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have the exact kilowatt hours, but we have seen, numerous cars parked out there for short lengths of time to charge up.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So carried. To our Manager of Development and Engineering again, the subject matter is Natural Resource Canada Energy Innovation Program Clean Energy Innovation Grant. The recommendation is the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council to direct staff to submit the information form and prepare a report to Council on scope, budget requirements, and administration of the Clean Energy Innovation Grant at the September 6, 2016 regular meeting for decision. May I have a mover? Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? All?
Yeah.
Councillor Butler.
Sorry, I have a lot of discussion on this one. I remember we had Alex Love come and present this to us at the beginning of the year, and I really wasn't sold on the idea back then, and honestly I didn't feel like he was all that excited about it. Maybe I interpreted it wrong, but the substation, as far as I understood, when he presented, that half of it was owned by Fortis, and that Fortis's part was in the floodplain and needed to either be lifted or moved. And that at that time, Grand Forks didn't have an issue with our section of the substation, but it was recommended that perhaps we could increase capacity by building a new substation. Although, the cost of the project in total was estimated to be about $2.2 million. The $50,000 that we've given approval for right now is just for the study. So if we were to apply for this grant, it doesn't, I don't think, say how much we're applying for, but we would probably be responsible for half of those costs. And I'm concerned that that $1 million, as Mr. Love had said, would be passed on to the ratepayers, and that we would see a rate increase on our electrical bills for covering the cost of that substation. And then he said, once that was repaid, we could lower the electrical rates. But as anybody knows, the governments don't lower rates once they've paid something off. So I don't want to see our ratepayers have an increase on their bills to pay for a substation that I'm not really convinced that is really that necessary. I'm wondering if we are in the floodplain on our side now, if that's been determined, if we could just lift our portion rather than rebuilding a new one. And it's my understanding from someone that worked on the original substation that it was built for increased capacity for the population increasing, but at that time the population of Grand Forks was around the same as it is now, and we were also servicing Camcar with our electricity, so I think our usage might have even gone down since that original substation was built. And just to raise the switches up, if staff could tell me if they've looked into the cost of that rather than $2.2 million for a brand new one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The study was to look at the different options. If Fortis does lift their substation, which they are planning to do, what work we would have to do, how much cost that would be. The option of council looking at whether we're going to do our own substation was not due to capacity. It was just the fact of changing the current model from distribution to transmission purchases from Fortis, which would decrease, our annual bill for electricity, which is where some of the financing of the substation of us building would come from. So I didn't think that it was an automatic increase the rates to build a substation, but I would have to check with the report on the substation with Alex on that.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, it was my understanding that initially it has to be paid for, that there would be rate savings from the increase in transmission purchases, but that would come over time. It would be, a one lump sum that we would get, that we would have to pay for that up front, and that, would be passed on to the ratepayers until the costs were recouped through the increase in transmission sales.
Mr. Mayor, the report that we have in the budget is to come back and show council all the options associated with that. That's the $50,000. And as you're doing this, you want to make sure that you want to have professional engineers and professionals develop the report so council has a full understanding of those costs. Mr. Love presented that report, and Councillor Butler is correct that there is some other things that could come down the line, but they were purely speculative until we get that report. The report is going to be the catalyst for helping council make that decision. And council cannot, and I would not recommend that council make a decision on doing anything until you understand that, because then that will change your 20-year capital plan should you require yourself to borrow, should you require yourself to do anything else. So all of those pieces will be presented as part of that capturing of that report. So whether we lift the switches, blend in with Fortis, or I'm sure there'll be 17 other options to how we get there, that will all be reported to council, and it'll be done through the professionals that would do this normally.
The report will be this evening.
The report will be, well, it won't be with council this evening. It will be, as part of the budget process is complete, the full report will come to council for the community to see, and it'll be reported as a list of options. And once council makes that decision on that option, that's going to shift the 20-year projections that we have, potentially.
So point of information, how much is the grant for? How much are we applying for?
You can only, a minimum of 300.
No, but are we applying for the 50,000 for the study? It's point of information.
Mr. Manager of Development. Or Manager of Operations, whoever wishes to jump in on this.
All right. Sorry. So the 50,000 was already allocated in the budget for the study. The grant was from, I think, 300,000 to $5 million, and I think it was 50%. So if we were going to spend that money anyway to upgrade the substation, we could take that as part of the investment to offset any increase or payback with grant funding, if that makes any sense.
How much are we applying for with the grant?
Well,
oh, sorry.
This is not just for the substation. This is for the ability for the micro.
This phase is just the information piece.
Yeah, this is just to apply for the grant. For
Can I go ahead? Sure. I should come to the mic.
Oh, it's wireless. I love it. Okay, let me press here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, this in order to receive the application form and actually get the application form, you have to submit a one-liner that says we are interested in this grant, and the recommendation is formatted so that staff would work with the electrical engineer and go and determine the scope of the grant, how much we're asking for, and bring that to the October council meeting. Okay. The deadline is October 31st. So this is getting ahead, asking for permission to do that initial review and initial focus. And it's essentially like a letter of intent that we're proposing to submit a proposal. It's not a request for the proposal itself.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond.
So the report that we're going to be receiving, we already have a report, from what I understand, from Alex Love. So this grant for this $50,000 is going to actually be a design and the engineering for the substations. So I think I'm kind of mixed on this because it is a lot of money to spend, but at the same time, a 50% grant. The federal government has been giving out an awful lot in the Liberals' first year, and that may come to a crash pretty soon when they realize how much money they're in the hole. So if we don't apply for this now, and when we do require it, we may find that
the grant may not be available, or we only may be getting 20% or 25%. So if we can get 50% now, I think it would be something to look at.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Butler is opposed. Motion is carried. To our Manager of Development Engineering, subject matter development permit application to place 2 sea cans with a roof over top on property located at 7920 Donaldson Drive. And the recommendation to council, they received the report, approved the development permit application for a property legally described as Lot 1, Block 14, DL 520, Plan KAP 1339, located at 7920 Donaldson Drive, subject to compliance with city bylaws and in substantial compliance with the plans presented in the application, and refers the report to the September 6, 2016 regular meeting for decision. And further, that the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that they waive the development permit fee of $200. May I have a mover? Councillor Butler. Discussion. Councillor Thompson.
Through you to our CAO, just a couple of things. What are the, what's it going to be used for, and why are we being requested to waive the development permit fee?
Mr. Mayor, I do not recommend that you waive the development fee. The developer asked for that, but I would not recommend that you do that. The second piece would be a conforming use for the use of the property as per the zoning. So I'm not sure if he's going to store widgets or buckets in there, but it is conforming. I do not recommend that you waive any fees, because those are the costs for you to pull that, to do the business. And undertaking this process is it does conform, and the manager has gone through this process. So that's what it's before you.
Councillor Hammond.
The only thing that I would like to see, which I don't, is a color rendition. And he's got line drawings by boundary truss. It would be nice to see like an architectural rendering, which actually is going to show what it's going to look like when it's finished.
Mr. Mayor, this is simply 2 sea cans with a roof over the top. You know, for him to go to an architectural drawing, I mean, he might spend $1,000 or so to have a rendition brought forward to council when he's in compliance with the zoning bylaw. This is just it is a development permit area for council. If there was a form and character issue for council, and this in respect to this DP, is there a form and character issue here? No. That's an industrial area. So because it is a development permit area, simply it wouldn't be at council's purview without that being in the DP to be able to speak to that. It'd be nice to have, but he didn't offer it. So
Councillor Thompson.
I believe the resolution was all encompassing, including the waiving of the
Yeah, so we have to break that one.
the development permit fee. So can we split that?
Yeah, recommended.
We just I'll just remove that bottom part. I just thought it was a recommendation from staff that we do so. So
Yeah.
if council doesn't want that, I'll remove the bottom part of the motion.
So all in favor of the first part of the resolution?
I think I'd have to put forward an amendment to my motion, then we'd have to vote on the amendment, then we have to vote on the amended motion, and
Well,
not
that's
just
easy,
vote
just
for
kill it.
board.
Just all in favor, all against, we kill it and redo it.
I'm putting forward an amendment to my motion that we remove the bottom part of the motion, that we waive the development permit fee of $200. So then we would vote on that amendment to the motion.
To remove the...
Yeah.
So all in favor of that amendment? Anyone opposed? So carried.
And then we vote on the amended motion.
All in favor of the amended motion? So carried. Now we have to deal with the individual. So we're recommending against.
It's just...
Just the
Falls
first
off.
part of the motion.
Just falls off.
Yeah.
So carried. Councillor Hammond.
Because of this, it appears that we've got the information that there is no, if it's zoned industrial land, there is no conforming structure required. Is that correct?
Yeah, but the structure fits in with the industrial zoning. It's CCANs, which are industrial, and it's an industrial building, so it fits in with the form and character, and it does fit in with the zoning bylaw.
So, based on that, I think that sometime in the future, it might be a good idea for council to look at a bylaw for, what's that term you used?
Form and character?
Form and character.
Yeah.
Form and character. That, not necessarily, just for the, because I'd like to see that implemented in our commercial. I'd also like to see that somewhere down the road implemented into industrial, so that we can have some control over how the community is going to look.
That's a discussion we could have in the future.
It's happening right now, Mr. Mayor, with the public during the SCP process. So the report that was here and what we've been working on for the last, I believe, 6 months has been the update of the SCP, which involves form and character. So we've been consulting with the public on our open houses with form and character is a part that's coming up, I believe, soon, isn't it? In that schedule that we saw there was a number three. Number 3, if we went back to the, can we go back to that, please, sir? Yeah. Just the Sustainable Community Plan update. So as we move into this one here, this is a little bit bigger.
Number 3.
Oh, number 3. Yeah. Development permit areas, and within that is the form and character. So we would update so what we would do is we would update the development permits to include form and character. When the community is going to tell us what they think about form and character, and then that will be before council in this whole bylaw, which is the SCP update, which you should see completed in about 12 months by the time the whole process is involved with the community consultation and everything. It's a long process.
Moving on to our monthly highlight reports from our department managers. The subject matter is staff request for council to receive the monthly activity reports from the department managers. And the recommendation is council receive the monthly activity reports from department managers. May I have a motion, please? Councillor Ross. Any discussion? Councillor Butler.
First of all, I just wanted to welcome our new CFO on board as you're sitting over there, and it's nice to have you here. Thanks for doing your report up for us. I also had a question for our manager of operations on capital projects. He said that they'd been working on well number 3 over the last couple months, and just wondering what's new on well number 3.
To our manager, Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well number 3 is scheduled to be commissioned the first week of October. So there's some electrical upgrades that need to be done the last week of September, but we were just waiting for the consumption to drop before we proceeded with that project. But we have all the parts, the motor, the VFD, everything like that. We have the electrical RFQ out right now because there is a bit of work to do to get that set up, but it's on track and just about ready to go here.
Councillor Hammond.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to our new bylaw officer. Bud, I have to say that driving around town, it does definitely look cleaner. Places have been tidied up, and it's noticeable. And unfortunately, there's still quite a bit of work to do, but this is a good start, and it is an improvement.
Based on that, I believe our new bylaw officer has a presentation to present to us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of Council. We have a PowerPoint presentation for you of what's gone on since I started on the job, which is approximately the 14th of July. In 6 weeks, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And I don't know how to do that one. Wait, is there a gun? Okay, next slide, please. As you can see, you hired me on July 14th to assist with the workload. I do work weekends, I work odd hours, I work evenings, I work early in the morning. People do not know when I'm going to be around. This is only one of 33 unsightly properties that I've been identified by members of the community to me, or that I've identified myself, including 5 that I inherited from Wayne when I came into this position. This is not the worst one. This is another unsightly property that's been being worked on by the office for approximately 2 years now. This property has received all the legal notices required and is now being fined. This is a video presentation of one property.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Getting busy.
I don't think it's a video.
Yeah, there is a video in there. There was.
Up there. Hit that button.
There you go.
There you go.
Giddy.
This is basically just showing you what we're coming across up there.
Yeah, that's my neighbor. Yeah. Back in the
But were you shaking when you were filming this?
No, that was me that.
This is my eyes.
The odor of this property is unbelievable. I park across the street with the city van and close the windows.
We have the neighbors here.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
There's been numerous issues this summer around homeless camps, including a large one that was in at the BMX track at the south end, just prior to the provincial BMX meet. I have managed to move 5 encampments from under various structures and various locations in the city. We still have a large one, but it is not on city property, and it's not in the city per se. It is on Crown land on a riverbank. I am working with the Department of Natural Resources with regards to that. Watering. There's been 71 watering infractions noted by me this summer. As of yet, nobody's received a ticket. This picture is an example of one fellow that turned on a sprinkler at supper time, and I took that picture at 6 o'clock the next morning. We estimate there were several thousands of gallons of water poured into that lawn. Special events, I attended all the big special events this year, including the old-fashioned drive-in, the BMX provincial qualifiers, CanFest, the Ultimate Frisbee Challenge, Park in the Park, Taps and Tapas, and the Fall Fair. And as far as from my perspective, everything was highly successful. I did not see any problems with any of them. And that basically concludes my report.
And thank you, Mr. Alcock. You're to be commended. You definitely emphasized the statement that I carry and wear, which is if we have bylaws on the books, enforce them or take them off the books. And you live right up to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good job. Thank you. Councilor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would, if it's all right, I would like to move on and possibly ask a question or two of the fire chief, if that's possible. On your report, you noted that there were 3 structure fires during this last period. And I do have a question. I think what I need to do is I need to ask first off if these structures were serviced by the Grand Forks City hydro. Was it our hydro that was going into those properties?
2 of them. Just cautioning because there may be insurance claims.
That's why I'm asking the question before
I think it's important that we don't get into any of those operational details, that we leave that for insurance companies to deal with and the fire chief's
Yeah.
report, and if your report is public, then we can make that available, but I would caution making the fire chief's report public until the insurance claims have been adjusted, or dealt with.
Yeah, and just to assure everyone, anything that I would deem at all confidential, I will not comment on.
Okay, thank you. I just wondered whether or not there was a way of accessing that information. Was it available to the public or not?
For the public to know if the property was serviced by our electric or water.
Just particulars of the fires. Just particulars of the fires.
Nothing more than, at this point, nothing more than what you're going to read in the paper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butler?
Just to follow up on that, I know I've seen a map before of our electrical service area and Fortis's service area. We don't service part of Rockall. Whereabouts can I find that map?
I believe we're online. Our map is on our website for our service area. Yes.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't find it.
Is there any other questions? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? So carried. Okay, moving along now to our proposed bylaws for discussion from our Chief Financial Officer. The subject matter is the 2017 Annual Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw. Recommendation is the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council give first three readings to Bylaw number 2033, 2017, Permissive Tax Exemption at the September 19th, 2016 regular meeting of Council. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Butler. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Crowder.
Did you get a seconder for that? Don't need it, it's committee of the whole.
Motion has passed. Our next item is correspondence items for unfinished business. Subject matter is signing of policy number 308, code of conduct by each member of council. Recommendations, council committee of the whole request council to sign policy number 308, council code of conduct as presented. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Thompson. Do we have the policies for each council?
Discussion?
Yes. Councillor Tripp.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to read a statement that I've prepared for this Council Code of Conduct. Regarding the Council Code of Conduct policy that is being before us for signing, I did not vote for this policy for a number of very good reasons. Firstly, I believe it discourages goodwill among councillors, it discourages uninhibited debate, and it has the potential to limit information gathering and comprehension of issues in the due process of council's decision making. This policy has already demonstrated that it is a divisive document that discourages goodwill with staff, evidenced by the fact that Councillor Butler has already run into a difficult situation with a photocopying issue, and has already impeded my ability to do my duties as a councillor, the details of which I'm unable to mention at this meeting. I also believe that it will restrict city councillors from communicating with people in the community. Furthermore, at the June 13th Committee of the Whole meeting, Mayor Konrad said that this document would not need to be signed by council members except as a voluntary act. An attorney has raised questions about its constitutionality and that it's a possible charter violation. It can be used as a tool to restrict freedom of speech. It is premature and should be addressed first at the UBCM conference to ensure that it is consistent with municipal policy so that there is uniformity and transparency in the policy-making processes for all BC municipalities. It may conflict with other laws that have been implemented and are already in place, and there are no procedures in place yet for the execution of this policy. I personally do not intend to abide by all of the policies that are already in place that govern the conduct of members of the council, and those are Bylaw 1946, Council Procedure Bylaw, Policy 303, Ethics, Conduct, and Conflict of Interest, and Robert's Rules of Order, which this committee has committed to abide by. Furthermore, as councillors, we are considered employees of the city, and we fall under Policy 601, Employee Code of Conduct, Policy 616, Respectful Workplace, and other employee policies that govern conduct. Because this policy has been voted in by the majority of council members, I will also abide by it However, I'm not convinced that this document could never be used to inhibit the democratic process, and because of my beliefs and values, I cannot in good conscience endorse putting in place a policy for this council or for future councils that may impede the ability to work in the best interests of the city. I wish it to be noted in the public record that I did not vote for the implementation of Policy 308. It is a violation of our charter rights to be forced to sign the document under duress, and as I cannot in good conscience sign it, I will not be signing this document today. Respectfully submitted. Thank you. And I do wish for this document to be annotated to the minutes, and if not, then I will just attach it to my report for the next council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Tripp, for your opinions on the matter. In regards to the legality of it, it has been checked out by our legal team, and it is fully legal. There is nothing illegal about the document. Furthermore, a lot of municipalities all across Canada have this policy, and even more so in Australia, there's one in place already too. And it has been passed by a majority of council. Should you wish not to sign it, that is at your own discretion. All I would advise, I am encouraging everyone to sign it so that we are all team players on the same team. For those that wish not to be, that is their prerogative. Councillor Hammond.
I don't interpret the code of conduct as anything sinister or devious. I have read many other communities' codes of conduct, other provinces, other countries' code of conduct. It's pretty standard procedure. What ours doesn't have is the policy for repercussions if somebody doesn't follow the code of conduct, which I have seen in others. Ours is pretty tame, and that's something that we do need to get into place, is the procedures, so that there are actions that can be taken against a councillor who deliberately goes against the code of conduct or the code of our councillor's policy does not have any repercussions, and so basically councillors are bulletproof. They can repeat conversations that were in camera, they can badmouth staff, and have been able to get away with a lot because they are bulletproof. And so saying that we have an oath of office and a policy in place already does not prevent a councillor from behaving in any manner that they choose. This code of conduct should have a procedure with it that does talk about penalties or repercussions, and trust me, I've seen some of them that are pretty severe and harsh. I personally don't have anything to worry about. I'm not going to worry about it, and I don't think anybody should. If they're not planning on stepping out of the policies, guidelines, I don't think that there's anything to worry about. And I think it's unfortunate, but I think it's necessary, and we're just following what a lot of other communities are finding that they're having to do. When we take this to the UBCM, I think you'll find that there's a lot of other communities in BC that are working with codes of conduct, and my hope is that it will be adopted provincial-wide and become a standardized code of conduct, and then hopefully UBCM will be able to bring in an ethics commissioner that will be able to deal with issues regarding councillors and council codes of conduct, rather than having to spend money on lawyers, which so many councillors, communities are faced with. They're left to do it themselves. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. Councillor Butler.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Tripp, I really appreciate the report that you've put together, and I would echo absolutely everything that you've said in that report. You speak for me as well with everything that you've said in there, and if it's possible, I'd like to add my name to your report as well, and I would like your full report included in the minutes to this meeting, and if not, I will include it in my next councillor's report as well. First of all, my allegiance is to the taxpayers of this town and to the people that have elected me to represent them fully. I will be a team player with council, but by not signing this report, it in no way reflects that I won't be a team player. It reflects my dedication to the people of this town and to the democratic process and to freedom of speech. I do not want my charter rights and freedoms infringed upon because somebody might misinterpret what I say. which happened to Councillor Tripp at her very first meeting when she stated a solid fact of something that happened and it was misinterpreted as a derogatory statement towards staff. This policy is completely open to interpretation and can be manipulated by the majority to silence the minority. It can be done in any council. I'm not just speaking for this council, but a majority of people that don't like the way that you vote can use this policy to silence you. And I don't think that's fair to the democratic process. Without having procedures in place for this policy, it's already been ambiguous and impossible to implement. Procedures need to be put in place so that everything is clearly defined and we can get our work done here. And if I need a photocopy, I should be able to get one, and it shouldn't make staff uncomfortable that I come to them and ask for a photocopy. And I'm curious, we have many policies on the book. Why does this one need to be signed? To staff. Why does this policy need to be signed? Who decided that?
Policy that was made up with that criteria that it would be signed by councillors to show their acknowledgement and receipt of it and compliance to it. Just like another policy. What is the other policy, Mr. Allen, we have that should be signed?
The employee conduct policy that all the employees have signed in the organization.
Exactly.
Our oath of office is
And our oath of office also.
And I have one more statement to make as well.
I will address Councillor Thompson first and then you can.
I wasn't finished. I just
Go ahead.
wanted to say that
These policies can be vetted by lawyers, and that's fine, but with anything under the Charter Rights and Freedoms, nothing is set in stone until it's tested in a court of law. You're not allowed to speak in a way that will detrimentally hurt someone's character in public. We know that. We have limits to our freedom of speech. But at this point, these policies haven't been tested in a court of law. Nobody's taken them to court. And at some point, that could become expensive for cities when they start censuring councillors, removing councillors from meetings, and not allowing the people, their councillors, to represent them. This will be tested in a court of law. And at that point, we'll find out if these policies are legal. At this point, it's just anyone's guess.
Exactly, well stated. Until such a time you're already going ahead putting the cart in front of the horse. It's premature. It has not been gone to any court. The intention of this policy does not have any ramifications where it will go legally to court. This is why it was totally observed by our legal team, and there were no flaws in it. It does not violate any parts of the Charter or the Constitution. Otherwise, we would have been advised that it is not recommended to put this policy in place. So all of the safeguards are in place, and until such a time, which the policy does not even have punitive measures yet have been implemented, policy reads that it will be discussed amongst council members should there be a violation of the policy, at which this shows exactly that we are team players. We will discuss it amongst ourselves first before anything is implemented as far as a punitive measure. This is why we will be implementing procedures, but up until now, what you're assigning is without procedures. Councillor Hammond. Now, Councillor Thompson, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Hammond.
I agree with you to a point where you state that it is up to interpretation. My interpretation is obviously different than your interpretation because you're seeing it from a different, I'm not sure how you're seeing it. I don't see it, I'm not seeing it the same way you are. I see it as a positive thing. And as far as representing the taxpayers, that's what I'm all about, and I'm out there and I'm talking to them. There is a way to engage with the taxpayers, listen to their concerns, and bring it back to staff and council without negatively impacting the city staff. Our first obligation is to our community. We're also obligated to protect the city. And so it's a fine balance, and you need to be able to do both without criticizing either sides. You have to listen to both sides. But there is protocol when it comes back to bringing concerns to the city. And as long as we follow that protocol without slamming the city or the way city operates, if we follow the proper protocol, there are no repercussions, and that's the proper way to do it.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. What I'm hearing from both, my interpretation of what I'm hearing from both Councillor Tripp and Councillor Butler is a fear of the policy and an implied I don't want to use the word threat, that this could be tested, our policy could be tested through the courts, and that would be most unfortunate. We've been there a few times, and it's been very costly to the taxpayers. I represent all of the taxpayers of the city, not only those who supported me in the election, but those who didn't support me as well. I think this is an excellent policy. I think it is one that I would certainly like to see brought before Minister Fassbender, with the hope that it could be included as a section under the community charter. And it will be with some pride and pleasure that I will sign this document.
Is there a resolution? There's no resolution.
There's a document, so,
Yeah, just
the document has.
Can I?
Okay, Councillor Hammond.
So if there's no resolution here, and this is presented, this is the entire code of conduct, can we work on the procedure plan on?
All policies can be amended.
So, yeah, Mr. Mayor, just to elaborate a little bit more on that question. So, in Australia right now, they have a very clear process that was mandated by the federal government for them and the provincial government to have a clear code of conduct policy in place, and it's part of their overall transparency to the public. The city or the province of Ontario has a very strong and robust process as well that's in place, and it does speak to the penalties associated with it. The Australian model is probably the most resilient model when it comes to the information. But it's going to take in order for there to be penalties and an integrity commissioner and stuff brought into place, that integrity commissioner is going to have to work with the local governments as a whole. It's probably a standing committee of UBCM to be able, and that is the peers. Those are the peers of the electorate. They would be there to develop the policies, and they would be presented to the minister as the guiding principles. So. In Australia, they have the principles of council conduct, they have the council misconduct, internal resolution process, what misconduct is, what's serious misconduct, what's gross misconduct, and what institutes criminal prosecution. The council conduct registrar, the council conduct panels, and they go through this whole process. But again, it talks about all the different applicable items. So again, these are this is a work in progress. So I don't think we're going to have anything that we would have. I know that in West Kelowna, for instance, they had a process where they had a resolution process brought into place where they had a lawyer come in and there was a councillor that had an issue and they talked about their issue and they reached a resolution on it. An integrity commissioner would hold somebody to a higher regard, and it wouldn't be council doing that. It would be a provincial integrity commissioner like we have an auditor general. The auditor general holds us as organizations to a higher regard. It will hold everybody else to a higher regard. So again, this is just something that is a movement across British Columbia right now. It's a very strong movement. I wouldn't be surprised to see it as part of the legislation of the House sitting potentially after the next election, that this would be a potential item that could be in the House for consideration. So again, for council to know that any procedures would just be our internal procedures, and I think that is something that I don't know if I would recommend the council spend a lot of time on at this point, but it's something we can have a discussion with our lawyers when we're at UBCM as well.
Councillor Crockett and Councillor Ross.
Yeah, I look at it completely differently than some members of council. I'm going to sign it because I believe that we should be in compliance with all federal, provincial legislation. We should, in the performance of our duties, conduct ourselves in a professional manner, refrain from verbal attacks and disrespectful conduct towards other members of council, committees, city staff. When it comes to meetings, then behavior of members prior to, during, and following a meeting or hearing shall always be courteous, professional, fair, and unbiased towards other members and city administration. We shouldn't be fighting at the table. I'll have to learn a little bit about refraining from sarcasm. But I'll stop with
Sarcastic right there.
disrespectful conduct and derogatory conducts, and comments designed to embarrass or undermine other members of council, city administration, and staff. And I shall base my decisions on the relevant merits and substance of the subject, including input received from staff, the public, and city administration. And as a member, my role, I look at city staff has a job to do, and if I'm in there talking to individual staff members asking for certain amounts of information or any of those type of things which slow down or hinder the process that the city's required in order to do its day-to-day business. So I don't see anything wrong with this. I think it's a good policy. I'm not afraid of it. Like I said, I have to work on the sarcasm part because I think that's a way to communicate. And when it comes to compliance and enforcement, if somebody does something that the rest of council felt was inappropriate, then we talk about it. And that's where we go with it. So I don't see anything in there other than please behave yourself at council meetings. Do not attack other councillors. Do not attack staff. Do not, and I think this is one that maybe bothers some people. Members shall refrain from undermining or criticizing other members, city administration, and staff in the public or to the media. So I should not be running around saying that this member of council is this or is doing this or whatever, and I shouldn't be doing the same with staff. Right? So I don't see an issue with signing it, and I will happily sign it and do my best to abide by it.
Thank you, Councilor Cook. Councilor Ross.
Yeah, I'll just be really brief. I mean, I've been on boards and executives for most of my adult life, and I've never had to sign anything like this because I think it's just good behavior 101 that all members of society should abide by. I certainly see, because of what has happened recently in the past couple of years, why we've come to this. And I will sign it simply because, I think we can all do better. And I know, and I apologize. When I first got on council, I was frustrated by some of the things that were going on, and I acted like a bit of a jerk. And there's no winners when we do that. It's not fun. It gets boring really quick anyways. And I knew always that I could always do better. I've had really good mentors in my life, and I've taken advantage of women especially who have been amazing leaders in society and in organizations who've gone alongside me and mentored me and helped me to be a better person and a better representative of the community or the organizational members who voted me into place in various capacities. So I will sign it. I just wish that every member of the community would have a look at this and also abide by it, because people who don't know me have personally attacked me, personally taken things I've said out of context and used it against me to discredit me, and that's wrong. That's wrong, and I think all people in the community should have a look at this and say, if you as elected officials are going to abide by this, then we as members of the community will show equal respect.
Well said, Councilor Rose. Councilor Tripp.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had asked if my statement could be attached to the minutes. I do have it here on a drive that I could give over to the staff. Otherwise, if you decline that, I will include it with my next report. So just wondering how to go forward.
For the official minutes, I think in order for it to be part of the record sheet, the council would be best to include it by the deadline for the agenda within their council reports. Just because of the nature of our agenda has been completed and the agenda has been adopted, so therefore I would recommend for the later date. I think because the agenda was amended.
Minutes, not
Yeah,
the
the
agenda.
minutes. Can you go into today's minutes?
Oh, it'd have to be a resolution of council to
Yes,
include.
that's what I was
into
going
the
to say,
minutes, yeah.
council, a resolution of council to approve it. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
I'll put forward that motion.
Okay, so can you read the motion?
The Councillor Tripp's statement be included in the minutes.
Sorry?
Just included in the
Yeah,
minutes
in
of
the
this
minutes.
meeting under this line item 8A.
Okay. Councillor Crawford, you have a statement?
We
We don't need a second.
We don't need a second there.
Okay, so-
Just if we're going to record that, then we should record
All of our comments.
all of the comments that were made today.
Mine was a written statement. Mine was a written statement.
But ours are verbal, so
Yeah.
it really
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
so-
So it
statements
doesn't
are
really matter.
So they're all
They're the
opinions.
same.
And usually we don't document in the minutes or statements.
Yeah, it's verbatim.
Yeah.
If we get into verbatim, then
Yeah.
we're missing a considerable part of this, just even this last discussion.
Yeah, so we're kind of contravening what we're doing. So, but I'll call the question. All in favor of including it? Anyone, all opposed? Motion drops off. It will not be entered.
Just if you touch it.
Okay.
Then it,
Yeah,
then it
put it in the report.
Yeah.
Put it in the report. All right. We now move on to, there's no late items, so now we will move on to reports, question, inquiries from members of council. No, question period is our next one.
Mayor, councilors, my name is Dwayne Panter. I'm a resident of Bryson Place. I'm supported here today by my wife Janine, my neighbors Connie and Wayne Heidish, Francis Allen, Seiji Matsuo, and also I believe, or perhaps he's left, Harry Saney was here, who is also part of this. We have written, I believe, approximately 10 letters to council expressing our concerns about the location of the proposed Boundary Women's Council
Coalition.
Excuse me, Boundary Women's Coalition shelter. We, first of all, want to say that we are totally in favor of the shelter. I have not seen the existing one. My wife has, and she said it certainly looks like it needs to be repaired or replaced. We are, however, very concerned about the location. We feel that the residents that are directly affected were totally left out of this, and I understand from talking with Councillor Krogh during the break that it was not in the city's hands. The province looked after this, and it was perhaps as much of a surprise to them as it was to us. I see that there was a committee formed on May 25th, 2015, which was a Transitional Housing Project Steering Committee. So the word transitional queried my mind. I was wondering if this facility was included in the considerations of that committee. I could not find anything that indicated what was in there. That would be my first question.
No, the Women's Coalition exercised their rights on their own. They went forward looking for their own place and did so accordingly with the provincial government.
So this
transitional housing was mostly for transitional housing regarding Beth's Whispers of Hope in our community.
For the homeless.
For the homeless,
Yeah.
exactly. She was present at the meetings,
Right, I
County
see
Marshal.
that
But there was no discussions on that particular aspect of it.
Okay. Excuse me, I have to gather myself here. We have deep concerns about the fact that this facility will be placed in the middle of an existing neighborhood. The majority of the residents in that surrounding areas are seniors. The lady directly to the north, Mrs. Copan, lives in the only house she's ever owned. There's a fourplex with seniors only directly to the south of it. The residents on Bryson Place that back onto that property, there's 8 houses, 7 of which are occupied by retirees. 3 of those are widows between the ages of 65 and 92. So from my understanding, these types of facilities are basically closed facilities. They do not become part of the community. I fail to see why it would be located in an area like that. This may not be the place to discuss that, and I would like to find out if there in fact will be an opportunity for us at some stage during the process as this proposed project moves forward.
Partially answer your question, sir. The city was in total compliance regarding this project was suitable for zoning. Also, without laying any kind of blame on the provincial government, this was handled by the provincial government with the Women's Coalition Group directly. So we complied, and we actually are proud to have this Women's Coalition facility in our community to help women and others that will occupy this premise. I know your concerns, but unfortunately, we are not out of compliance with the factors that pertain to this property. This was a private property that was acquired by the BC government. So your concerns should be addressed to that area.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Yes, I'm not hearing that the gentleman is blaming the city for this, because I think he realizes that we were out of the picture. This was private land purchased by the BC, or the Women's Coalition with funding by BC Housing. What surprises me is that BC Housing, knowing the complex, did not do a neighborhood survey, did not talk to the neighbors. We weren't aware of this. We saw the renderings. They were presented at a luncheon with Linda Larson. They weren't brought to the city. They were the actual renderings that happened, which I don't know that they're still using, last fall. And it was a surprise to me that they purchased private land and were already at that stage. So the fact that they hadn't communicated with the neighbors, this is coming as a surprise to me, and I'm sure most of the other council. And I recognize and understand your concerns, because I know that there's a need for this. I'm not sure how much of a need there is. And I had concerns about security and the fact that I used to work for victim services, and the shelters that we took women and their children to, nobody ever knew the addresses or where they were. And if there was only one in a community, you'd take the women to another community where they'd be safe. And it's unfortunate, because you take them out of their environment for 30 days and you might take them from Grand Forks to Castlegar Trail or Roslyn. But if they kept hearing in Grand Forks, there's nothing preventing that abusive father or parent to go to the school and take the child, or at least know where the woman is. And they had assured us that they have adequate security. So I'm not so sure that there would be such a security concern, because they have looked at that and addressed that. But I can understand your point for noise factor. And with the playground being built, when I was standing there at the ribbon cutting, I was looking over to the back of Bison Place, and I'm thinking, I hope the Rotary doesn't place the playground right over by those fences. So perhaps there's a way that you can work with BC Housing in the plans and with the Women's Coalition for the design, so that there can be sound barriers and that the playground can be further away. But I'm not sure. I mean, I think your only hope is to go to BC Housing. I'm surprised that they didn't consult with you.
Well, it was certainly a significant surprise, I believe, to everybody in our neighborhood, both in Bryson Place, on the sides, and across the street when this was announced. I mean, it just basically came out of the blue, as far as we knew.
And myself, when I was present for the photo op and the actual opening of the site, I was surprised too it was there. But again, without laying any blame, this was beyond the scope of the municipality, right?
We also, oh, sorry.
Just add one thing. One of the things we're working on right now is our sustainable community plan and the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw was last completed in 1999. That involves the community to have input in that. So as a community, the community comes out, like they are today, they come to a session, and they work on it. They provide their comments on land that they would see suitable for multifamily, whether it be a place for a gravel pit, and all of this was approved by council in 1999 based on the opinions of the public. If the public chooses, if they're not here or they're, whatever the case may be, but if there's limited consultation from the public, council is handcuffed. So that property was zoned as multifamily, whatever the use is, and it's been like that since at least 1999, if not earlier than that. The biggest challenge for mayors and councils and the provincial government is that bylaw has been adopted by council with the approval from the electorate that they wanted those things there. They wanted these types of uses. So when people are in areas where there is specific zoning, they are subjected to those things. You might be on the area where you're allowed to have farm animals, and we heard some of that earlier on this year. The other things we just have to be considered is the information as the city moves forward. What are the options for the city? And the city really is in a position right now where somebody's purchased the land under that zoning for that use, and it really puts a council into an awkward spot because councils can't go in and downzone properties without affecting the property owners, because the property owner has basically purchased the land. Now, you may be able to work with the provincial government, have some conversation, but councils can't go and downzone that because it takes the value away from the land as it is zoned.
Yeah, and again, had the BC Housing approached the city to per se rezone it, then the city would have had some input into the discussions. Okay. At this point, it did not have to be rezoned. Councillor Butler.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the delegation. I know if it was in my neighborhood, I would, not because of the project, but I know in my neighborhood, like when I see stuff going on, I'm like, what's going on and why don't I know about it, right? And I would be offended if something happened in my backyard and I wasn't made aware of it ahead of time. Although, like people have said, it has gone through the normal procedures, and unfortunately that's how it's turned out. I did see the letter that the Women's Coalition sent back to you, and they are, a great group of people, and you guys seem like it too. So if there's any way you guys can talk together and, try and work something out so that it can be more comfortable between you. I think at this point, I don't know if you have any other options other than speaking with the provincial government, but just, maybe, I'm sure they're open to input too, right, as they move forward, and if you guys can work together collegially, I'm sure you can have some input into it.
I'd just like to reiterate on a comment I made when I said earlier I was surprised, not surprised as in detrimental or negative surprise because I wasn't even aware myself where the property was. And I think the majority of council had no idea either. So this is exactly what, again, not laying blame on the provincial government, but we were so out of the loop on this one that it was handled directly between Women's Coalition and the BC Housing and the provincial government. So our hands are tied. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if I just might make a comment to that Councillor Hammett very rightly pointed out, is that usually these facilities are kept very secret. Nobody knows where they are. They look like any other home or any other facility in the area. And so they're trying to do that for privacy issues and for issues of keeping the women safe. So I think that you have to assume that there would be a little bit of goodwill there if you were to go to them and express your concerns. I think that they would try and work with you as they could, but they have the issue of the privacy on the other side for the people they're building the residence for.
All right.
Okay.
The second row.
So if that's true, why would they have had it be front page news, the address and everything, to let everybody know,
Where it was.
if you're looking for your
That's
children,
unfortunate.
come to Bryson, come to, this is where they will be. They have security, and it's short term for all of them as they come and go. But for us, we're permanent residents, we're retirees, and so should we consider getting our own kinds of security in case if we see someone lurking around our backyards, like our fence lines? Are they one of them? Are they, every day? Maybe a week there, another bunch are going to come in of people they're going to help, which we think they should. But our peace of mind is going to be so affected, an 80-year-old, a 90-year-old, every time we see anything going around, I wonder, I saw a new batch, because our full view for the 4 houses that we're talking about here, they're so highly raised bungalows for the view that we were getting. They're going to put a high fence. We still see everything. That's going to be what we look at every day, is a sad thing. A shelter with people that are, women that are sad and having a hard time and everything. That's what we're going to look at every day. And our fear is going to be, they're going to protect these women, and they want them to be safe, but
Who's going to?
But who's going to care about us? Like, we expect it really that the council, that somehow, when you're in a community, that mayor and the councillors have to be a part of something that comes in, especially when it needs security and it's short term. We're long term. We're taxpayers. They're changing the value of our properties. I mean, we're losing. It's not going to be if people find out there's a shelter there, they're going to be concerned just like we would. Every single person I've told so far says, "Oh my goodness, you're going to lose your value of your house and your peace of mind."
I respectfully appreciate your concerns.
Thank you.
I believe our acting chief corporate officer has like to weigh in on this one.
I just wanted to point out in a conversation with Pete Matheson, because we did have the same concerns about the privacy issue. Apparently, there's been a change in thought around isolating and keeping incredibly confidential where a transition house is for women and children, and the new train of thought is to make it very public and to encourage them to engage with the community and their neighborhoods. So it's because we as well thought that it was a confidential address, and not quite understanding that it isn't. The idea is that it's well known, and as a community we keep watch or take care of the area and not rely on it being confidential. So that's just.
I let Ms. Winton weigh in on this one, but that is exactly the comment I was going to make, because at the opening I did ask that question because I had the concerns, and the same answer I received also. That it has all changed. The criteria on that type of secrecy has all been changed now. It's no longer the same, because I had those concerns too. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to the delegation. Building on what Councillor Butler commented, the Boundary Women's Coalition has extended an offer, I believe by letter, to meet with the concerned residents, because the letters that we were copied on also went to the MLA Linda Larson and the Boundary Women's Coalition. And I hear what your concerns are, but I would strongly encourage you to meet with the Boundary Women's Coalition and get their input and feedback, and perhaps that may allay some of your concerns. There's really nothing that as a council we can do to change what is. So I would encourage you strongly to accept their invitation and to meet with them. Tell them what your concerns are as neighboring properties, and hopefully you can work together and build a rapport.
Thank you. Some of the people that have written letters have received a letter from the Boundary Women's Coalition. The one that my wife and I wrote, we personally have not received one, but we didn't send ours at the same time, so I assume it'll arrive this week, and we fully intend to take them up on their offer to meet and discuss the issues. What we were wondering about is, I believe the mayor mentioned that the project is in compliance with the zoning requirements. I've read the zoning information. I see that the current facility is located in community use property. I guess I have a question that may not be for you. Why they would not continue to put the facility in that type of a location. I have never been engaged in civic politics, and I don't know the ins and outs of zoning bylaws, but I'm not sure if I understand how a facility fits within the description of dwelling units as outlined in R3 properties.
Again, as you had mentioned, it is not a political issue. We don't want to turn it into one, but again, I will direct the reasoning possibly there. If it's by zoning, we have no control over it.
I understand that.
I'm not that familiar with the present building that I believe is on hospital property. And so that's the existing zoning as community use just because of where it's located. But it is considered a multifamily residential unit, and so it does fit into that zone.
And furthermore, I'm sure the BC Housing and the provincial government would know this.
You would think so.
Yes. So, I mean, we don't want to overstep our bounds because we are the children of the province as a municipality.
I understand from talking with Councillor Krog at the break that the city did in fact have discussions with the Boundary Women's Coalition about a different site, but apparently there was no follow-up done on their part. So I guess we appreciate the fact that the city was involved and did try to do something about it. However, we would like to know where we can go from here and if the city can do anything to help us. What is the process for this project to move forward? Again, I'm not very well versed in civic politics, but I understand it requires a development permit and I assume a building permit. At those stages, are we allowed to make presentations, or is only the developer and city staff, for example, at the development hearing available to make comments at the development hearing?
To the best of my knowledge, if it falls within the parameters, again, without sounding redundant, if it falls within the policies of the zoning, we issue whatever permits are required. We cannot turn this into, but I'll let our CEOs weigh in on this one, but I do not believe there's any public consultation at that point.
So, Mr. Mayor, the only time that we see public consultation or public hearing is when there is a rezoning. So somebody's seeking to rezone and change the land use. The development permit time, depending on the parameters that are set out in the development permit, which may be form and character, which may be density or anything like that as pre-described, that's what the community can speak to. If a neighbor buys a house and they want to build a yellow house and a round house, you as neighbors can't go in and say, unless there's a covenant on the property, go and say, you cannot build a yellow round house in here, we want the council to stop it. If, in respect to this property, the VP area actually speaks to anything outside of that, environmental, I'm sure would speak to a few of these other elements. They're not meant to hear the public say, we don't want this. The rezoning is a time where the public can come in and say, we don't want you to give a land lift, we don't want greater densities, we don't want you to have these types of uses, for instance, on these types of properties. We don't want a gravel pit in our backyard. We don't want to have these things. That's when the community can come forward and speak to it. And that's when council can either at the public hearing, after the public hearing, either give the approval or not give the approval. In this circumstance here, without having all the details today, I think we're a little bit, we're asking several questions. I think maybe the best solution would be to have the group here meet with the Women's Coalition group and then still set up a meeting with our manager of development and engineering to understand, because as a community, we're not here to say that we're in favor of supporting this or that. We have our regulations that we had before us. If the residents of the neighborhood want to understand those regulations, we'll provide them to you to understand what we're dealing with here. The next steps, I can't really speak to them yet until you've met with the with the Women's Coalition and with our team, and then we can talk about that. I don't know that there are any next steps, so to speak, other than let's open up the dialogue and see what we've got here. I think right now we're at the position where we're saying this or that. We don't know what we have perception right now. We don't know exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about perception, and I think until we have the facts, the perception becomes our reality. And we're faced with that all the time in communities. We have these preconceived notions of what we're going to see, and I think we need to afford the time to have the discussion. And then once discussion has happened, then the facts will be before everybody. You can make some decisions, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. But today, at today's meeting, we're not prepared to provide you with anything today. And we would love to provide you with the information, and we will commit to getting that to you. I think just for today's purposes, this is all we have. So,
thank you. So, does anybody from the city have any idea what the timeline is on this project?
Not at this point right now, because we don't have a development permit application. We don't have a building permit application. We don't have anything that we would see normally through our building inspector. If somebody was to build a property, or to the manager of engineering for servicing needs, they would be in talking to us about those things. So we don't have anything from them yet.
Okay. I guess I would like to say then that I know I would, and I'm sure all of my neighbors would be more than happy to be involved in any discussions with any of the parties and the city as well, and we appreciate the offer that has been made to help us understand where this is going. I take it then that there is, from what has been said here today, that there is nothing that the city can do about this project, given that they own the land, it's appropriately zoned for what they're proposing. The development permit is pretty much a rubber stamp, I guess, as long as they meet the requirements of what's required, and a building permit is just a technical thing.
Yes, regretfully not able to, but the rubber stamps.
Wow, sorry, I didn't
necessarily written in stone.
It's not hard to get.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know at this stage. It's too premature, so we can't really comment, as our CEO would say. That's the truth. It's too premature at this point to even speculate on how it's going to play out. There's no way of knowing. Councillor Ross, I will have to caution council that we have.
Just briefly, I know some of the people involved with the Boundary Women Coalition and the designers around this building, and this is supposed to be a place of safety and healing for the people who are there. You're not going to look out and see sad women. You're going to see a place of healing, and I know the way that it's being designed, and I know that they would welcome your input and hearing your concerns. They want to make this place a beautiful place, a safe place, and a place of healing for the women and the children so they can transition out. And I'm sure, I know these people want it to blend in and to be visually appealing, not only for the people who are living there for that short period of time, but for the people who are living around there. So if you have ideas about how you can make it more beautiful, I'm sure they want to hear, but they also want it, that has to be safe for the people living there, and it has to be safe for the people living around there. That's key and essential to the people healing and moving forward.
And as an organization, I'm sure they're willing to embrace their neighbors like yourselves. It's not something that they're just going to come in and open the Women's Coalition transition house.
Okay.
To the gentleman in the third row, and
thank you.
Then I will close the discussion on this.
So, now a concern with us was with the building transition housing. They're going to make it beautiful, blend it in the community. How long is this going to last throughout the years? Who's going to maintain it? Because the government isn't going to be putting their money into it, right? Later on, it's going to be dilapidated. And we don't want to definitely become a homeless shelter environment. So my question is, how engaged is the bylaw officer going to be with once this is all set up?
That's a question that's really, really premature, because at this point we don't even have a building yet. We don't have anything there
Right.
yet. So you're being speculative. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
we could be talking about a vehicle that's going to have 5 wheels on it too. So I mean, it's really, with all due respect, that's way too premature. Should the situation arise, of course, we have bylaw enforcement in the community. So there's no question on that, which I stated earlier. If we have bylaws on the books, they will be enforced. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here on speculative questions that really don't have any answers at this point yet.
Yeah, but I
Because
mean,
we're not
we
at that
have,
stage.
we have Hardview Lodge is sitting vacant there for years. There's weeds in that.
Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean this is going to happen here.
That's our hope that it doesn't happen.
Well, yes, so...
And that's what's our big concern. We don't want this.
Yeah, when it happens, should it happen, we will deal with it then. And that's all I can
That
say.
would be appreciated.
So with all due respect, I am going to have to close the public discussion.
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you again. Regretfully, we weren't able to help you more than this, but at this point, we don't have all the answers either yet.
It's a tough time of life. I know.
I wish you should be present for the in-camera because it's going to
Oh,
retain the
we're going to have to
recording.
break for the I have to run out for a meeting.
Okay.
I don't have a choice. I need to show up. My son's standing at school. Yeah, so I'll be right back.
First time I've ever been here.
Our next item is the in-camera resolution on our chief administrative officer. The subject matter immediately following the committee of the whole meeting, council will hold an in-camera meeting. That the committee of the whole recommends council convene an in-camera meeting as outlined under section 90 of the community charter to discuss matters in a closed meeting which are subject to section 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or another position appointed by the municipality. Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land or improvements if council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. Section 91J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Be it further resolved that persons other than members, officers, or other persons to whom council may deem necessary to conduct city business will be excluded from the in-camera meeting. So moved. All in favor? So carried. May I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Thompson. This meeting is adjourned.